What's up, everybody? How are you? This is the special edition of Real Talk Chronicles. I am so happy to do this segment tonight, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. But with that being said and saying all that, I hope you all had a beautiful Tuesday. Like I said, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, and today I have two phenomenal gentlemen with me. Uh, I'm going to call this gentleman my big brother, and you'll know why during the later part of the segment when we explain it. But I just wanted some of the sponsors that it's the Deadly Arts of Survival magazine. Listen, this is a positive magazine. And Mike, you might have to mute it. Right, there you go. So with that being said, if you're watching it from Facebook, if you're my friend, share it and everybody will see it. If you're watching it from YouTube, subscribe, because Real Talk Chronicles, we have Assemblyman Al Taylor every Monday of the month. We have Dr. Marilyn Corder. We have the First Lady of Def Jam, Allison Williams. And then we do a spiritual thing the fourth Monday of the month. And then Wednesdays, we have Richard Williams, community activist person. We have and two retired detectives that they come on and we give our whole perspective on a lot of things. But without further ado, and shouting out everybody that are part of this, we have Melba Wilson, who is a sponsor. We have Reggie Wells, his quality speakers. We have Leon Ellis of Chocolate. And of course, we have Ingram Taxes. Saying all that and getting that all out the way, I am so happy and honored today that this gentleman allowed me to give him an interview. And him and Reggie Bullock will be on with us later. And you'll see why I separated them the way I did. Ush, what's up, Murphy? He's everybody, Ush. So shout out to everybody that's chiming in. And without further ado, like I said, if you're watching me from Facebook, under this live, share it. There's a share button and it'll go to your page. Michael, if he's on his phone, or I know he's on his laptop, but on his phone, he'll have to just lower the volume. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring in my big brother, Mychal Lookup Sledge. What's up, Mike?
Us, brother.
Us. How are you?
Outstanding.
Good. So, you know what's so funny? We're going to go around the world and we're going to talk all about Mychal tonight, everybody. And first and foremost, we're going to talk about the martial arts, Mychal. But we're going to talk about how Mychal got into being in the martial arts. So first and foremost, for Mychal, for the people that don't know where you're from, can you just tell people where you're originally from?
I'm originally from Harlem, USA, little residential neighborhood in New York called Harlem, small village, born in Brooklyn, raised in Harlem. Very blessed.
That's a beautiful thing. And we are both Harlemites. So shout out to Harlem. That's a beautiful thing. Now, Mike, in the documentary that Reggie did of you, which is phenomenal, and we'll talk so much more about that tonight, you talked about your childhood initially. So please elaborate on how, your parents, your childhood, and how that segued into you thinking about or even getting into the martial arts. Please go ahead.
Yes, I grew up in Harlem, the only child, two-parent households, 8th Avenue, Edgecombe, 10 years old, only child, 2 requirements in my household, have to go to school, get an education, have to go to church. And the struggle wasn't church, the struggle was the education. Bullying, actually being bullied at a very early age, going back and forth to school, was the main reason I looked for some form of self-defense.
Can you tell me what was bullying like? Now, we understand what the word bullying means, but for those that don't understand, era and time may differentiate what bullying is. Maybe bullying today, I don't know if bullying today is worse than bullying back then, but the bottom line is, let's talk about how bullying made you feel. Because anybody that knows what it's like for somebody, if we're going to go layman terms, feeling punking you, it's traumatic for a man and a woman. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
I'm glad you brought it up, Bill, because the trauma aspect of it, I was 10, 11 years old. And I say 10 because that's when my dad put me in the martial arts. But the feeling was low self-esteem. Why me? The trauma piece was very dramatic and emotional. Um, I've seen it done where it's very violent back in the 60s, and in the 70s. It was fighting every day. It was being jumped. If you won a fight, you had to fight the brothers the next day. I always tell the story about a family on 140th Street. The sisters could fight better than the brothers. So if you beat them up, you still had to fight the following day. And Absolutely. At the same time, we didn't come home and cry to our moms or our pops about what was going on. But they saw the blood. They saw the scars. Moms was like, you go back out there and fight. You go back and get your bike. They took your bike, and it was a fear of coming home and dealing with moms or dealing with these dudes in the street. Moms won, hands down. So Absolutely. not something I was looking for. You just got picked on. I was a little child. Never been a big man. Never been big in weight. Small eyes. Always dressed nice. Yeah. I was a target.
Right. So let's talk about that, because a lot of people, when you talk about era, and I'm 58, so I understood how we were brought up in lieu of our parents saying, don't come home and tell me somebody whipped that ass and you didn't do anything about it, because we had more problems at home. And that's why I tell people, and that's a whole nother conversation about law enforcement, but that's how I tell people about being a New York City child or an inner city child that was brought up by a village, that you didn't have to be a formal fighter, but you was taught what it was like to be a punk or not a punk, because your parents told you, don't come home without something I bought you. Do not come home with somebody ripped your shit. And you was like, what? You didn't do anything about it? Like you said, the repercussions at home were so much severe and you know what's up, Mike? I don't know if you know, a couple of times that might have happened. You get extra strength and you win. you win that fight. You know what I'm saying? So let me ask you a question. How often did this happen to you?
It was every day, bro. It was consistent. And I tried different ways. Like I lived on 143rd. I had to go to school on 139th. I tried different ways to get in and out of school, but it was like these cats just waited. It started on school property. It ended on the streets of New York, on the streets of Harlem. But it was an everyday constant battle. It was like my mind wasn't on books. My mind wasn't on studying. My mind was on surviving, getting back and forth to school.
And somebody, you said something earlier that the psychological and traumatic experience that this caused, because the bottom line is sometimes it can cause you to overreact sometimes, because the bottom line is I'm sure anybody that's ever been punked or anybody that's tried to punk you remember that to this day. And the one thing you say, that will never happen again.
Absolutely.
So shout out everybody. Today, I have a living legend in the building, Mychal Lookup Sledge, a martial artist, a big brother to me. Shout out to the people that are chiming in. I see you, Tremel Thompson, Vanetta, Earl. Earl said, true legend. The documentary was amazing by Reggie Bullock. Definitely. Reggie Bullock will be with us on the second half of this interview. I see you, Deb Washington. Andre Juggernaut Richardson is in the building, my teacher, one of the Sledge family. Shout out to Jug in the building, Colin. So shout out to everybody that's chiming in. We appreciate you all. Gina, Buttercup, I see you. So everybody, we have Mychal Sledge, and he's telling his story about the documentary that Reggie Bullock did. And like I said, Reggie Bullock will be with us later on. But the one thing is, I wanted both of them to get their flowers as I go along. So now, okay, let's talk about this, Mike. The bullying. It happens. It's frequent, more frequent than you ever want to imagine, because one time will last. I can think about the one time somebody tried me and it still resonates with me to this day. And my mother would always say, listen, don't you ever, my mother and father, I, like you, an only child, my parents was like, yo, listen, if somebody bothers you, you pick up something no matter where you are. That's why I got that slogan, where you active is where you get it. Because the bottom line is, like you said, your exterior wasn't rough and rugged. So the bottom line is, now you get into this mindset that you're tired of this shit. You know what I'm saying? So let's go forward. How did you get into the martial arts, or where did you segue into the martial arts?
You know, it's interesting, Bill. All my cousins, and I have a big family, but all my cousins were in Brooklyn or in the Bronx, and I wish they were with me every day, and I would talk to them on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad took us on a bus outing to Peg Leg Bates, and I was 9 going on 10, and I saw Tong Dojo, the Wilder twins, Thomas the Puppet, George Cofield. First time I literally physically saw the martial arts. And Bill, I fell in love. I came home and bought every karate magazine I could possibly get my hands on. I begged my dad to put me in some form of the martial arts, boxing, karate. Give me that 007 knife you carry in your back pocket. Like I was just tired, man. I was beat down. And my dad has always been service in church. He was an usher for 30 years in Harlem. And he was ushering in Salem Methodist Church one Sunday. And he came home and he said, I found a karate school for you. And I said, really? My whole face lit up, right? And long story short, it was in Salem Community Center, which is part of Salem Methodist Church on 129th Street and 7th Avenue. Sensei James Cooper, Sensei Mickey Meggett. In 1968, my dad took me to my first karate lesson at the age of 10. Okay. And the rest is kind of history, man. What I didn't know, Bill, and this is ironic, I didn't know that Sensei Cooper had trained at Tong Dojo from what I saw in Peg Leg Bates. I didn't know Mickey Meggett, who was his first black belt, was also Shotokan man that trained at a Tong under Grandmaster Cofield and Grandmaster Le Puppet. So it was just ironic. I didn't have to go to St. Mark's to Brooklyn to Tong Dojo to train. I was actually being taught by their black belts. I didn't have to go yet. That comes down the line later. But I had to go. But it's just spiritually, it amazes me. I saw this demonstration, Peg Leg Bates. My dad takes me to Salem Dojo, and who's there? Grandmaster James Cooper and Grandmaster Mickey Meggett, my first instructors.
Wow. And everybody, listen, this is a story about a documentary about a man that went from being bullied, became a martial artist just to protect himself. So there's so many lessons in this story tonight, and the documentary shows that. And we will definitely, when Reggie comes on, we will talk about the documentary, because the bottom line is Reggie captures all of that. And the bottom line is, so there's so many different lessons, because the bottom line is his story may help you tell your children, your grandchildren, somebody that you know that, listen, I think at all times, somebody has tried one of us or all of us at one time. So nobody here can say nobody didn't try you. Everybody gets tried. That's how you get into a fight. So understand that. But this is a story about a man that persevered and it became a world champion. So please listen and share this story. And it touches my heart. And that's why I felt like it was my point to make sure that if he allowed me to do this, and this was awesome. So now you started studying, and you started off with Shotokan, correct?
Yes, sir. Actually, it was Japanese Shotokan and complete martial arts system under the Ed Pugh system, which I learned 2 styles, jiu-jitsu and Japanese Shotokan at the same time. And at the age of 10, I didn't have a clue. I just was in karate class.
Wow, it's so funny. Shout out to everybody that's chiming in. Brenda McLaughlin, you was with her last week. She says, yes, to a legend. I see you, Tracy Morton is in the building. Terry says, I fell in love with martial arts until I moved away from where I was getting lessons as a kid. I was a tomboy as a kid, and I used to kick those boys' butt. That's what's up, Terry. That's what we do. You know what I'm saying? Because the bottom line is sometimes, and that's why martial arts is great for women. And people understand, and I'm sure Mychal can co-sign this. Never feel that you're too old to learn martial arts.
Right.
when I started studying under Andre Richardson, who's in the group, I was a man. You know, I was a man. I was a young man. I was in my 20s. But the bottom line is I was a man. And sometimes that can be intimidating because you see sometimes you're lined up with young kids and stuff like that. It doesn't make a difference. It's what you put in is what you get out. So always props to my master in the building. Also, so Dorian Gray is in the building. He said Bruce Lee wouldn't have lasted one round with Mychal Sledge. Absolutely. And we see Reggie is in the building and he's watching. So shout out to everybody that's watching from YouTube or Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to it so that way you can get all the updated Real Talk Chronicles events. And if you're watching from Facebook, please share the story. I implore you to share this story. I'm never going to ask somebody to beg, but listen, positivity is a beautiful thing and we need to spread positivity. So now, like you said, you started off with jiu-jitsu and Shotokan, and like you said, at a young age, you didn't know it. How old were you when you started studying martial arts?
10 years old, 1968, 10.
Wow. Look at that. 1968, 10 years old. And which is a beautiful thing. And we'll talk about later on how the martial way has still stayed with you. So yes, we will get into that. So, okay, let's talk about that. So now you're studying martial arts and you're doing these different styles that you don't have no knowledge of, but you just know you're learning how to kick and punch. Right. So go ahead. Yes. Continue. Take us down this road.
You know, it's everybody gets excited about the championships and the international championships and the trophies. My true understanding of the martial arts was self-defense. I needed it because I needed to defend myself going back and forth to school. I didn't get into the martial arts to be a karate champion or international champion. I got into it to protect myself on the streets of Harlem at an early age. And I had no clue I would excel in it. You know, I got promoted to black belt at 15 years old, Bill.
Okay.
In 1972, September 24th, all the masters were there. And I felt I should have made black belt at 13, but they wasn't putting black belts on no 13-year-old kid back then. So I stayed brown belt for 2 years.
Yes.
16, I'm fighting with the adults and with grown men. But for me, it was something that I could commit to and be dedicated to. And I still didn't have a clue of the principles or the way of life, the code that I live by today on the impact it would have on my life down the line. I just wanted to go back and forth to school and walk the streets of Harlem safely as a child. That's all I wanted to do. And when I saw it work on the street with that same family that was bullying me, to this day, I don't have any problem walking on any street on this earth because I know it works.
Now this is real talk, so I got to go there. Tell me about. I'm sure you can remember because this was the tone setter and the game changer when that bully, whoever he or she was, that walked up to you, and you finally implemented a move or a technique. Tell me about that.
I will never forget it. I deliberately let him grab me. And what I've learned in the arts is when someone grabs you, you have them. You have them. Yes. And the next thing he knows, he was looking up. He caught a couple of elbows, and then he hit the concrete. And the look on his face was like, what happened?
Yes.
And the crazy part is his boys and his brothers was around, and they all said, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Like, this ain't the same kid we just beat up.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody, please give the thumbs up in the hearts. For this is Mychal Lookup Sledge, and he's telling his story. And like I said, later on, we'll be bringing Reggie Bullock in, and he will be telling his story. But the bottom line is the documentary is out. Listen, I'm pumping this documentary like I'm pumping Real Talk Chronicles. So, if I believe in it, that's what it is. And my word is my word. So, and what's so funny is that you said that because like you said, from the jiu-jitsu standpoint, a certain part of our world, Dr. Moses Powell would say, yo, once I touch you, I have you.
Over. It's over.
You know what I'm saying? So after that, he's looking up that concrete, and now he's probably saying, oh shit, and a whole lot of other adjectives that he didn't even know. And his boys don't want that smoke. Take us after that. So after
I remember telling Sensei and going to the dojo immediately,
Uh-huh.
right? Wednesdays and Saturdays with class, and saying, "Sensei, this works, and he just kind of laughed at me, and he didn't ask for details, but he asked me, "Did I get hurt?" And I said, "No." He said, "Did you hurt the person?" And I said, "Yeah." And he asked me how bad, and then he started taking me through the steps of the martial arts are naturally endless. The necessity to defend your life need not be by appointment, but may occur at any unorthodox time. Therefore, the techniques and the forms of the martial arts are naturally endless. He took me at a very early age through the process of when to use this and when not to, and to what degree and what level. And honestly, Bill, I'm forever grateful for that. I'm forever grateful.
What sensei was this?
James Cooper, Sensei
Okay.
Grandmaster James Cooper.
Absolutely. Is he still alive?
Yes, he's in Florida, living well, doing well.
Awesome. Shout out to Sensei James Cooper. So now that you know that you can implement these moves, take us to the continued walk of the martial arts. Did you ever have any more problems after that?
No.
Ain't that
No.
a beautiful thing? That's a beautiful.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
So now take us through the walk. Now, okay, now you know this is something that works. You already been tested, battle tested, and people understand. I'm sure Jug understands this. Any martial artists out there, anybody that's had a fight, the worst fight in the world is to know somebody's not there to break it up. That's when you know you're in a fight. That pushing and shoving, and somebody breaks it up and talk about you guys stop it and knock it off, or ladies knock it off. It's a whole totally different game. But to fight and know somebody's not going to break it up is a totally different game. So now you understand that you have a skill set. Now you start honing on the skill set. Take us through this now. When do how often are you training? What else are you doing?
I have a very addictive personality since a child, right? And still, at times, I still have it. Classes were Wednesday and Saturdays, but I trained every day, Bill. St. Nicholas Park, City College Park. I trained. I trained nonstop. High school, college, even today, I trained. I don't need a dojo to be in to train, and I'm grateful for that. Competition played a major part, and if I can, I like to share that. Right before the tournament scenes, and I'm talking Aaron Banks, Sunnyside Gardens, which was every weekend. But before that, in Harlem, senseis would have each other come to each other's school, and you only brought your top guns. I'm talking about Baba, Fred Hamilton, the great Grandmaster Leon Wallace, Pardue on 8th Avenue. There were maybe 4 to 5 schools in Harlem in the late 60s. I'm talking history now, late 60s, early 70s. And to be invited to the dojo to compare katas or compete or to fight in the ring was an honor. And there was no trophies there. This was iron sharpening iron. Then the tournament circuit took off. You know, I was sharing it with you earlier. I'm one of few on this earth right now that competed in the Pee Wee division, the Super Pee Wee division, the Junior division, the Super Junior division, and then the Man division at 16. There's not many martial artists on this earth that can say that. But I go back before the tournaments. It wasn't about trophies. It was about the honor of your dojo, and that your sensei asked you to go to this school with him and train, whether it was Major Wallace School or Baba Fred Hamilton School or Pardue School. We didn't have many martial artists schools in the greater New York area, Harlem per se. So that kind of set the tone. And really, I sharpen my skills in tournaments. And don't get me wrong, there's a big difference between tournament fighting and real life street fighting on 8th Avenue or Lenox Avenue or where you're at. There's a total different style of fighting. But it set me off in terms of going into tournaments and winning first place on a consistent basis in grand championships, and then going out of the country when I competed with the United States karate team, the AAU team.
Wow.
Bill, I've been blessed, man. I've been blessed.
Sensei, hold on for a second. I want to ask you a question, because the bottom line is, and like Jug is in the building, like you said something. I started studying in the late 80s, and I'm still a practitioner, like you said, to this day. But the one thing that you did say, and which we did, with Jug he took us to different schools, and you had to understand who you were fighting, because the bottom line is people were trying to take your head off in these other schools. And like you said, you wasn't going to these other schools and getting embarrassed because the bottom line is, if you wasn't going to those other schools, you wasn't supposed to be there. So you're right. Let's talk about that, and then, like you said, to talk about the Pee-wee and the different levels that you fought. So let's talk about that in the different schools and how the competition was, and then talk about how I want you to differentiate between street fighting and tournament fighting. Because the one thing about full contact in the dojos, we fought. We were like, there was some blood drawn and there was some bones hurt and bruised. So I want you to elaborate on that for me, please.
You know, it's interesting you bring that up, because I never wore a mouthpiece until I competed AAU. I never wore a cup or jock strap until I competed AAU, international and national, right? I'm before the safety equipment. We had ace bands, Tiger Bomb, some alcohol. There was nothing on your hands. It was pretty much bare knuckle, and I'm talking open competition. I had to adjust when they came out with all this safety equipment and putting a mouthpiece in my mouth and putting on a cup to compete. It changes over the years of how we were taught and trained and competed, as opposed to what's taking place now. And I'm not knocking it. There's insurance issues, there's liabilities, there's people getting hurt. But when you're talking bare knuckle, and I'm talking about maybe an ace band on your hand, and you're fighting 2-minute, 3-minute rounds, the winner is obvious. Okay, the point system and competition, and even in the dojos, competing in other dojos, it's cute. I call it cute.
Yes.
It's real cute, right? Yes. The reality is, again, I'm not a big man. You know, I'm 6 feet tops, 180 tops, and that's overweight for me. Yeah. When you're on the streets and people are attacking you, knives, guns, hand to hand, one, you never expect this little guy to know what he knows and does what he do. The other piece is, I'm not doing rounds. All right. I share this a lot, Bill, with the young people around me. Check this out. This is all I need.
Yes.
I'm going to take you out with these 2 thumbs. Yes. I'm not sweating. I'm not going around doing flips, jumping, flying sidekicks off the car and on the roof. I'm taking you out real swiftly and keep it moving.
Absolutely. And people don't understand that. Go continue. I apologize.
No, but with the tournaments, it really is a point system. And I share this a lot. You got to know the game in order to play it. You don't go to play a football game or basketball game with a football equipment on. You have to understand what kind of tournament you're in, what's the rules, what's the regulations, what can get you disqualified, what requires a point. You know, for me, I fought in many different arenas, and it's been a blessing to me because my style and my system has not failed me. It's allowed me to prove myself in different arenas. And I emphasize proving myself to me, not necessarily to, the spectators or to the referee. And I'm grateful for that.
Awesome. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster. This is the story of Mychal Lookup Sledge and the filmmaker, producer, Reggie Bullock, who will be joining us. Shout out to my big sister, Melba Moore, is in the building. Hey, Melba. She coming in to join us. Daquan Murphy, Hanchi, in the building. He said, don't forget the Bengay. Also with that, too. Absolutely. I want to pronounce this right. Annette Sledge, I-N-I-T. Apologize if I pronounced it wrong. She said, curious about the mental preparation that you could be hurt or hurt someone else during competition. What was your mental?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that Sledge, but I want to answer that because it's important to me. I remember we were taught prayer and meditation. We were taught emphasizing Zen meditation and other forms of meditation in Salem Dojo. And I'm grateful for that. But I remember praying before every match that I wouldn't get hurt, Bill. And then when I realized how good I was, I would pray and meditate that I wouldn't hurt the next person. I remember fighting in Chicago. It's a national tournament. and I hit a cat with a rich hand, and he had a detached retina, and I liked him. I knew him for before we ever competed. I remember staying in Chicago to visit him to make sure he didn't totally lose his eyesight. The mental preparation is just as much as the punching and kicking up and down the floor, the mat work, the kata, the weaponry. You have to have a strong mind to pursue this, because hurt people. But
Right.
if you're not malice and you're not intentionally trying to get disqualified, and you just want to win this competition within the guidelines of the rules, there's still possibilities of people getting hurt. The mental preparation for me really stemmed from trauma, Bill. It goes back to being bullied. It stems from emotional harm that was done to me by family members that I carried throughout my whole career of competition. Okay, so if the mind's not right, the body's not right. There's something else that was taught in Tong Dojo, in the EP system, and in Salem Dojo. A thinking man is a dead man. A thinking man is a dead man. You can't stand up, you can't fight, which means your mind doesn't have time to think. This has to be unconscious moves and blocks and kicks and punches and sweeps without focusing on the thought. The other piece of, if you can't stand up, you can't fight. Well, I'm Lookup. I ain't gonna be on the ground. So the reality of it is, there was a lot of affirmations that were given to me in my training that developed my mind, as well as sharpening the tools of my body.
Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. That's Mychal Lookup Sledge. And later on, we will be bringing in Reggie Bullock with us, the filmmaker, producer extraordinaire. But this is about the documentary. This is about the blessings. I wanted to give this man his flowers today, because the bottom line is, we do not, as people, give our love and blessings to each other. So this was something that I definitely wanted to do. If you're watching from YouTube, please subscribe to it so you can get more content from Real Talk Chronicles. If you're watching from Facebook, go under, if you're my friend or Michael's friend or Reggie's friend, please share it and watch it. Shout out to David Shepard in the building, my brother David Shepard. He says, I understand completely what you're saying. He said it becomes automatic. This is what it is. Because talk about how, like, I always, and I'll go back to shouting out Andre Richardson, because he took me to tournaments. He started me into the tournaments, but due to my professional career, I had to pass on after a while, and I do that. Money goes more than the career. I mean, than the sport aspect of it. But the one thing he used to always say, and this goes back to Mychal Sledge and asking you the question, but you answered it. But we talk about preparation. Dre always said to me, he said, yo, listen, no talking, everybody. And me as an older man at the time, when I'm saying I was in my 20s, he said, watch the fight that you're fighting. Watch your opponents. Pick out what you need to do, what their strengths and their weaknesses are. And, in the street, we train for IE, the white belt, unbeknown to us if this person has any training, because a real fighter, a trainer, does not want to fight anybody. So you have to understand that people, it's usually the bully. Nowadays, you have people learning how to box or doing this and doing that, but they use it as a bullying tactic or some more form of method. So let's talk about your preparation in fighting and getting prepared. Like you said, the trauma. Let's talk. You mentioned trauma from family too. If there's something that you could elaborate on, please do. If it's not too personal,
it goes back to hurt people. It goes back to the era in which I grew up in, right? And I'm a firm believer and always believe, the mind is the most powerful tool. The mind is the most powerful tool in the hands of the oppressor, but it's also a powerful tool in the hands of a warrior. If you can control your thoughts, Bill, I literally saw one family member's face 95% of the time I competed, and people got beat up and don't know why they got beat up because I saw that family member's face in the ring with me. That's the power of the transformation. You know, I got a book coming out called "The Life I Live Today Is Not My Own," and I go into detail about that family member and what I saw. I got to do this. You said Melba Moore was on here, and I know you didn't get to the Sledge Group part.
No.
This woman sung at Healing in Harlem, a Sledge Group production gospel fest. Bill, you don't know this, okay? She was the star performer for a gospel fest the Sledge Group did to keep their doors open at City College. I have nothing but love and respect. My doors would not still be open had it not been for Melba Moore performing that night at City College in a gospel fest called Healing in Harlem. I don't want to go off track. I also want to go.
But we're giving flowers and
listen. You keep bringing up Jug, Andre, Kashinda. I watched this man when I stopped competing in 1983. And the things you said he just taught you about watching your opponent, it's like a chess match.
Yes.
Okay? It's just like playing ball. He always goes to his right. He always goes to his left. He drops his hand every time he kicks.
Absolutely.
You're taught to focus in on what's important and what's open, what's called the opening for you. And that's also in the streets of New York or on this earth. When you realize a person's left-handed, a person's right-handed, a person limps, a person's overweight, how hard they breathe, there's a lot of things that goes into just kicking and punching and competing, just like life. Okay, everybody doesn't reach the point of checkmate. Absolutely. You might get the check, but you might not get the checkmate. Absolutely. So you have to be strategic. And it goes back to the mental preparation of all my losses, and no one talks about that, made me better. Bill Foster's not going to beat me up 6 times in a row at Sunnyside Garden, Madison Square Garden. Listen, the Battle of the Zodiac. He doesn't beat me the same way.
It's not happening.
Which makes you go back and sharpen your skills to become better. It's definitely within yourself that you bring out the best of yourself.
And you know what's so funny? I'm glad you said that. And like I said, it was so funny because, like I said, I've been blessed to have my martial arts family, you know, i.e. Andre Richardson, Shabazz, Soki Little John, you know, Abdul Mutaware, you as mentors, Lamar Thornton. So, you know what I'm saying? But I always told Jug when I went into NYPD, and as Reggie and I were talking earlier, and Reggie said his cousin was telling him certain stuff about me, I always told him when I was doing organized crime, it was because of the tutelage that he taught me. You understand what I'm trying to say? You know, whatever skill set I had before I became a martial artist, he just fine-tuned it. And everybody, this segment is about a man that was bullied as a child that became a man and let martial arts take him to heights. Collaborating with who he was going to be anyway. But martial arts just opened certain doors, because bottom line is, I think you can co-sign this, and I'm sure Jug and I will definitely always say this: if you can't kick my ass, ain't too much you can say to me. Not that we in here bullying and picking on people, and I say that from a martial arts love aspect, because the bottom line is we walk with a humble path. You know what I'm saying? Hachi said, Soki, PAPASAN would ask after tournaments, win or lose, did you learn something?
Papa San can't.
Yes. You know, it's so funny. And that's a key point. Like you said you ain't going to lose 6 times from the same person. That's not acceptable. You understand what I'm saying? We're not walking down the same street getting my ass kicked every day. No. Like I said, and the bottom line is, this is the whole thing about this era, our era, which is a beautiful thing, in lieu of what today is. We took on the bully. You know, we after a while, our parents said, listen, galvanize your thoughts and process, because there was a bigger bully at home. And like I said, whatever we saw at home that traumatized us, because coming from where we grew up with, and correct me if I'm wrong, if this doesn't equate to you, that we were taught to keep our personal family lives personal. You
Definitely.
don't share your business out there. Now everybody
Definitely.
knows everybody's business for
Yeah.
whatever reason, unbeknown to me.
Yeah.
But right now, if daddy hit mommy, you kept that.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Or somebody got into a fight or something, you kept that.
Yep.
Or the rent wasn't paid, food stamps, you kept that.
Yep.
So, like you said, you took this trauma and you took it and you went forward with it. And how beautiful. Everybody, this is a story about perseverance. So please, whatever you take about it, we're talking martial arts right now in the beginning of this segment. But whatever you hear from this gentleman, please take it and understand it may equate to your life and it still may motivate you to be something that you feel that you can't do. Because this is about motivation, this is about uplifting, and this is a documentary. This is about a martial arts legend. Shout out to everybody that's chiming. This is Real Talk Chronicles. That's Mychal Lookup Sledge. Reggie Bullock will be with us later. Shout out to Jeffrey Anderson. Us. My man Phil is coming in from Atlanta. Of course, Dave Shepard is here. Vanetta is enjoying us. Sheila Redmond is in the building. Shout out to all the people that's watching on YouTube. Shout out to Eddie Vieira that's on YouTube. He said, "Oh, outstanding program and guest. Much respect." Absolutely. So now, look up. Let's go. You're fighting now. You like you said, you're not losing. You like you said, the losses. I'm sure they resonated with you because you're like, wait a minute, I lost. Mm-hmm. Whether you've been cheated, because we know tournament life can be cheated out of tournaments, but it made you want to probably. And I think about my tournament life. Whoever I lost to, I tried to demolish the next time because I couldn't believe, yo, you cheated me. You know, hometown dojo, whatever. Because let's talk about like how losing motivated. And shout out to Melba Wilson again. If for those that don't know, Melba let me interview her, and you can go to Real Talk Chronicles and scroll through on YouTube and see the interview, the candid interview that I had with Melba Moore, the legend who just received her star in Hollywood. So shout out to Melba Moore. We appreciate you, Melba. You're always loved and respected here. So yeah, let's talk about now this tournament life that you started to get into and you're going forward and you're rocking with. Please.
It's a beautiful time in my life, Bill. And
I'm just going to move for the second.
No, fine. It's a beautiful time in my life because I won my first national championship. It was George Dillman, Reading, Pennsylvania. And I was 17 years old, 1975, and they gave $1,000 to the cash prize winner. But I was 17, but I'm fighting with all the adult men. And that put me on a mark, or at least on the ratings, as a national champion. But I had the blessings of Sensei Cooper, Sensei Meggett, and my dojo support behind me. We would drive the tournaments, and it wasn't just a local New York City thing. Reading, Pennsylvania was a good ride for a kid from Harlem, and it just took off. I see Niquan Murphy put Soki Papasan in there. The first time I ever left the country, Bill, Soki Papasan Canty, may God be pleased with him, and Robert Sugar Crossan.
Shout out to Sugar Crossan, absolutely.
Were the first two men to take me out of the country. This is long before AAU. And they took me to Venezuela. Marcel Planchet was the president of Venezuela. They shut the whole town down. I fought in a stadium called El Peligro. It's the shape of the egg with 80,000 employees. And I questioned them on the flight back. Like, why didn't you take your own students? And I'm like, look up, you're hot. You're hot right now. And we know you won't lose. We know you won't embarrass us. But it took me from 17 as a national champion. I'm still to this day surprised my mom and my dad let me go to Venezuela, right?
Yeah.
But from winning my first national championship at 17 and 18 pushing 19 to leave this country and fight in Venezuela and win everything, it just told me like, okay, so maybe I am hot. Maybe there's some stuff going on. Not understanding the language in Venezuela, but definitely understanding Hajime, when you get in the ring and you bow what you got to do and taking care of business. I say it was good times, Bill, and I share this a lot with my children, and just a few minutes ago with my grandchildren, right? I have a 12-year-old, she just made 13, Gabrielle, 13-year-old national dance champion, granddaughter. Awesome. And I say to her, Gabby, Papa didn't become a national champion till he was 17, and you became a national champion in dance at 12. Absolutely. The most enjoyable thing, Bill, is the fun I had. Yes. The best education I ever received in my life was literally traveling around this world. Not my college degree, not my high school diploma, but the ability to go to places where I didn't speak the language.
Absolutely, yes.
And see the culture and see our history as a man of color.
Absolutely. That's a beautiful thing. Everybody, that's Mychal Lookup Sledge. I am Bill Forster. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I want to ask you a question, Mike. If you can, I'm sure you probably can. First and foremost, what schools did you go to in New York City?
Public schools, you mean?
In college, either what? Just any schools that you went to?
I went to PS 123 on 42nd and 8th. Yep. Then I went to the old Douglas, which was an all-boys school, and they looked like they were grown men in there, right? Junior high school. They closed the school. I went to IS-10, the first class in IS-10, Frederick Douglass. And then I went to Brandeis in high school, and I was in a college-bound program, which, because of my academics, allowed me to be in a 4-year program in high school. We were isolated, double Englishes, double maths, and I played football for Brandeis. I played 4 years of football, which set off a scholarship for me to go to Shore University in Raleigh, North Carolina. I saw the KKKs my first year there. I had to make a decision, Bill, whether I'm going to be a football player or a martial artist. Yes. I transferred to Eastern Connecticut State College my second year in college, which is where I met the great Reggie Bullock. He was a year behind me in class. We both had these big Angela Davis afros. We both had that New York swag up in Connecticut. Yeah. And I let him tell it, and we just connected, like you wouldn't believe. The beautiful thing for me though is, and I'm grateful for this to this day. Mm-hmm. God has ordered my footsteps, and I mean this, Bill. Mm-hmm. I had no idea when my parents pushed me hard on academics and education that it would set me up for college bound in Brandeis. I had no idea when my grades slipped. My mom's pulled football from me. She pulled karate from me until my grades went back up. But what they did was set me up academically and intellectually to understand the importance of education. And I'm so ever grateful for that. When I say God ordered my footsteps, I wasn't a black belt in Karoshi-Do. I wasn't a black belt in Sugar-Roo Jiu-Jitsu. We had a strong bond between James Cooper, who trained under Ed Pugh. Yes. Sugar trained with Ed Pugh and Professor Power. We had a bond with Papa San. So it was comfortable for me to train in Karoshi-Do's dojo. I graduated college in 1979. Yes. I didn't come back to Harlem, Bill. I came back to Brooklyn. Yes. Papa San and Hassan Khalif opened up their dojo like I was one of their black belts. Awesome. When I went to go fight in Paris, France, all the guys in Paris was 6'8", 6'9", 6'6". Who better to get on the mat with and train before I go to Paris but Hassan Khalif? He's a tall, sharp, experienced martial artist.
Yes.
All right.
Hassan Khalif in the building.
Listen, if I can block Hassan's legs, I can block any Frenchman's legs in Paris, France.
Absolutely. And he's going to bring it. He's definitely going to bring it.
And I mean, this guy, they would close the dojo and it would just be me and Hassan and they're going back and forth. Or Pop would allow me to train with his black belts and I'd be in there training with their black belts. I lived in Brooklyn from 79 to like 82 before I came back to Harlem. But Karoshi-Do is like a second dojo to me. And this is me, you talked about it earlier. This is not about rank. No. Okay? Hassan would have given me rank. Papa San offered me rank. This is about the respect and the humble piece, they knew I was a kid out of Harlem, out of the projects. They knew my instructor, James Cooper, Mickey Meggett. They knew my lineage in terms of EP system, Sennuku Rue, all the way up the line to Professor V, to Maynard Minor, George Cofield, Thomas the Puppet. So I wasn't no okey doke guy that came off the street that didn't have no history. And I say this all the time. If I don't know your instructor, I don't know you. Okay? If you can't tell me, if I got 54 years in the martial arts. If you can't tell me, I said 54, not 44, not 34. I got 54 years in the martial arts.
Absolutely.
So when you start bouncing off names, I really ain't impressed.
We talked about that too. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. That's Lookup. That's Mychal Lookup Sledge.
Real talk. Real talk.
Because the bottom line is, like you said, in the thing, sometimes you got to walk with, listen, I tell people all the time, and you got it. I know you got it. Sometimes you got to walk with unlimited swag. And that's what it was. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, you ran off a bunch of names, and it's a beautiful list of martial artists. Like you said, Hanchi Murphy is in the building, and he's like, yes, sir. Because the people don't understand. It's a beautiful thing as we get older. We start studying with other people just to enhance. Like I said, you can't tell me to continue to read one book. Then I'm not going to learn. So it's beautiful to read other books. So please just give us, again, for the people that don't, everybody, this is a story about a man that persevered from being bullied to becoming a world champion and end up getting the documentary, which will be bringing Reggie in a few minutes. But the bottom line is, so please run down some of the people again, just for edification, that you've studied with, studied under, studied alongside with, just to give them give them their flowers.
Let me give you the lineage and the history, right? James Cooper's still alive. Grandmaster James Cooper's still alive. He's my first instructor. Right. And Shotokan in the jiu-jitsu. Mickey Meggett is his first black belt. He's deceased. He's transcended. I'm the second black belt James Cooper ever promoted. Right. James Cooper trained with Ed Pugh out of the EP system. Ed Pugh and Moses Powell were best of friends, trained together. There was self-defense clubs. There was no Sennuku Rue created in the 68. There was none. It was complete martial arts. There was the Ed Pugh system. Now, let me give you the history with the Shotokan. George Cofield and Thomas the Puppet came under Maynard Minor. Maynard Minor is no longer with us. He came back from Japan with Shotokan. Shotokan was transformed for the urban environment based on our body type at a Tong Dojo, which is why Tong Dojo will always be infamous in winning in competitions and in kata. The Japanese are not built the same way we are, anatomy-wise. We changed the game under the Shotokan emblem due to Maynard Minor coming home and training George Cofield and Grandmaster Thomas the Puppet. Real Talk Chronicle. I can give you the history, tell you where the bodies are buried and who's legit and who's not legit and where the history stems from. Professor V was Moses Powell's instructor. I remember when he came from the Philippines in the early 70s into Ed Pugh's dojo. So when I play Homage, and this documentary was two things for me, Bill. I told Reggie Bullock 2 to 3 times, no, I don't want my life exposed like that, right? And the other piece was I have to honor the masters that poured into me. I have a circle like Master Rico Guy, Papa San Canty, Fred Hamilton, Alex Sternberg, plus one, the only Jewish black belt that came out of Tong Dojo, Chuck Merriman, my coach, also for the United States Karate AAU team. I have to pay homage to these men that poured into me. And I can't forget the women that also poured into me that is so hidden in our history, in our history of the martial arts. The reality of it, Bill, is I am because they are.
Absolutely.
They listen, they saw a kid come into the martial arts at the age of 10, put a black belt on him, at the age of 15 and just took off martial arts wise, but they made me the man I am today. I want to tell this quick story because I want it documented, Bill.
Absolutely.
I graduated high school in 1975. They gave a party for me because I'm the first to go to college, right, out of my system. Professor Power, Ed Pugh, George Cofield showed up in Harlem at Salem Dojo on 129th Street for this going away party for me. They called me in the back room and they said, "Lookup, what are you going to major in when you go to college?" I don't know. I got a 4-year scholarship, Bill. I don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Professor Powell said to me, "Mychal, look up. We taught you how to take a life. You should learn how to save a life."
Hey.
Do you know, Bill, I went to college and majored in biology and got my degree in biology because of that conversation these men had? We taught you how to take a life.
Yes.
You need to learn how to save a life.
How powerful
for me, that was full circle, brother. Come on.
How powerful is that? And people don't understand. Everybody, that's Mychal Lookup Sledge. Mychal, first and foremost, who gave you the name Lookup?
Sensei James Cooper. And it started with my eyes, right? Bill, I have very small eyes,
right,
which is part of the bullying. Chinese Mike, Jap, this Vietnam kid, the whole 9 yards, right? And I say that because Sensei would always make me do more push-ups, make me do more up and down the floor kata, because he thought my eyes were closed, right? But after tournaments, I love counter techniques. I love sweeping and punching. I just love sweeping, which is a big part of Shotokan karate. It's not just hands. And the lookup stuck because every time I went to tournaments, that's what's going to happen. I don't care how big you are. You're going to eventually be on the ground looking up and watching the Zuki come in.
I love it.
Hopefully I'll tag you before you hit the ground, and I'll tag you some more after you on the ground.
Yeah, give you something to think about while you falling, right?
That name stuck, Bill, from a child. Over 40 years, look up.
And like I always tell people, a great nickname is given. It's not, it's you didn't call yourself that. So now, shout out to my man Al B, my narcotics brother in the building. Shout out to my other dojo brother, Derek Horn, is in the building. Shout out to John Palmer is in the building. Everybody, this is real. James Bullock is in the building. Reggie's cousin that we were talking about earlier that I worked with, and he knows exactly my story. And my man Phil from Atlanta, of course, I mentioned him. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. This is a story about a man named Mychal Sledge that earned the name Lookup, that was bullied as a child, and eventually became a world champion in martial arts. But now, before we bring Reggie in, Mychal, I want to touch on your accomplishments with the gold medals. I want you to run that down for the people that don't know what a Harlem man has eventually done. And the records are set for life. So just run down some of your accolades, please.
You know, the documentation is important to me, Bill, because I'm not going to be here forever on this earth, right? I'm listed in 5 world almanacs as a national champion. I won 2 gold medals in the Pan American Games, and that was unheard of, to win 2 different weight classes and fighting in the Pan American Games in Curacao. I won 5 national championships. I'm listed in 5 world almanacs. I've won national, international grand championships all over this world, not just in the United States, but all over this world, from Paris, France, to Turkey, to New Zealand, to Osaka, Japan. I've competed, and I'm grateful for it. I can probably talk another 2 hours of championships that meant a lot, from Madison Square Garden to Sunnyside Garden to Manhattan Center, to fighting in California, the top 10 nationals, the Battle of Atlanta. There's not too many places I didn't travel to go to and compete, and most of it was on my own dime. Even when I fought for the AAU national team from 1979 to 1983, I had to find sponsorships, or they covered the travel, but a lot of this was out of pocket. And, you know, me and you talked about business. I was raised by a strong businessman, James Sledge. I'm still trying to fill his shoes, you know, as my father, in terms of what to do with a dollar. but a lot of us couldn't compete nationally or internationally because of almighty dollar and the lack of education, and most of all, the lack of income. When I say God ordered my footsteps, I was put in positions where I had Puma as a sponsor when I fought for the AAU team. And the AAU rules and regulations, you know, I'm about to go in January to the Wuko Games down in Florida. July, I'm sorry. The Wuko Games, the World Championship Games, to have some conversation with the leadership of AAU. This has to change. Absolutely. Okay? I fill the seats. I bring people to the table.
Yes, you
do.
The
same piece we're promoting today. You know, Bill, we can have another podcast on how we're commercializing the martial arts and we're raping it at the same time. Don't get me started.
No, okay? We will. We're going to. So you just said a word and it's going to be done. So let it be done.
Bill, I've said this to black belts of mine. Don't pimp my art.
Absolutely.
Don't pimp my art. And I'm going to shut up with this.
Yes.
I have over 4,000 trophies and medals. Over 4,000 from 1968 to 1983. Don't insult me and tell me I got to pay to come to some award ceremony to get another trophy that you call yourself honoring me. That's pimping.
It's disrespectful.
And the sad part is a lot of these people don't understand when they call me and I say, okay, you cover my airfare? You cover my hotel fare. My wife travels with me wherever I go.
Absolutely.
No, we want you to eat the cost of airfare, Mychal Sledge. We want you to eat the cost of the hotel fare, Mychal Sledge, Hashi. We want you to buy 2 tickets to give me a trophy? Bill, if I turn this camera around right now,
exactly,
my living room is covered with trophies. Absolutely. So are my children. So is my mother. God bless her. Absolutely. Come on. Absolutely. How much are we going to continue to be utilized and pimped? And I love this art. I will die with this art in my spirit. I will die a warrior.
Absolutely.
But I'm not going to allow you to pimp me and use me so you can make $1 off my blood, sweat, and tears of my 54 years in the martial arts.
Absolutely. I tell people all the time, and from those that don't know, and this has nothing to do with it, but me being a top promoter, event planner in New York City in the tri-state area, I don't go any place that I have to pay. Because why? You are following the footsteps that I paved the way and shown you how to do this. So the bottom line is, if I got to pay, then I'm not supposed to be there. Because I always told people, may the late, great Kobe Bryant rest in peace. If he had an event, you know damn well Kareem, Michael Jordan, and all those other individuals will not pay to get in his event. So that's a lesson to pay respect and homage to those that came before you. And this is a humility path that people don't understand about what we're on. Shout out to everybody that's chiming in. Hey, Albie, I see you. He said it's a hustle. Absolutely. Now, with that being said, I wanted to talk about, before we bring Reggie on, I want to talk. Richard Williams is in the building. What's up? Where you got my ticket? Exactly. You understand it, Richie. So with that being said, let's talk about the martial way. Not everything has always have to be about kicks and punches. You just started something with that is phenomenal that I am honored to be a member of, called the Sledge Group. Let's talk about that. Oh, before we go to that, I want to pronounce her name from YouTube. Jaycelyn, is that Terry? Onyeukww. I see you watching. She says, what a hopeful segment. Never late. Thank you. Absolutely. This is everybody. This is Mychal Lookup Sledge. This is about the documentary. We will be bringing Reggie Bullock in a few minutes, but I just want to talk about the Sledge Group and how the martial way, as a martial artist, you've evolved and you've done something with the tutelage from your parents, and you and your lovely wife have galvanized together to do something. So let's talk about that for a few minutes, and then we'll bring Reggie in.
Listen, as short as I can possibly be, Bill, I could have easily opened up a chain of martial arts schools in 1983 when I stopped competing. I went to the federal government. You said it earlier. I needed to feed my family, right? And I excelled in the federal government, top of the food chain, right? But when I look back on the birth of Sledge Group, I come from a family of giving. I remember eating breakfast at another family's house on the 11th floor. I lived on the 13th floor, and their family eating breakfast before we went to school there. And I share this because so did my wife. I met my wife at work in the postal service. And Sledge was born 23 years ago because of the principles that we both believe in. But a lot of it is martial arts, man. The dedication, the commitment, the harmony of mind, body, and soul. The Sledge Group is a 501c nonprofit, never been in any trouble fiscal wise, but we're a holistic program. We run free tutoring, we run free mentoring, we run free parent support group, and we've been doing that consistently for 23 years. We give back to the toys and shelters every Christmas Eve for the last 23 years, actually 21 because of COVID. And the same thing with feeding the homeless in the streets of Harlem and in the Bronx and in Brooklyn. The spiritual principles that we look away from and people don't understand with the martial arts, with a good instructor, Bill, and you know this, you're taught to live by a code. Some call it the code of Bushido. I'm a martial arts for life. I had a tournament career, but I will die a martial artist. It's in my blood, it's in my DNA. The more I age, the more I add on to my years of experience. And what a lot of people don't understand, and I'm talking about the ones that give credit to China and give credit to Japan and Okinawa and Korea. The martial arts was started originally in those countries out of self-defense.
Yes.
Okay. Most of the weapons that we use, from a side to a bow to an oar to tonfas, were all farm tools. Yes. People don't know this.
Yes.
A lot of students are competing with farm tools, and they don't know the origin of where these tools came from. I'm talking about from the bamboo sword to the samurai blade. A lot of this was taught from the nature of self-defense and protecting your village. Mm-hmm. For me, the martial arts is endless. For me, the martial arts is much more than kicking and punching. It's how I live.
Absolutely.
My word, you said it. My word is my word. My integrity, my dedication, my commitment is my walk.
Yes.
My offsprings are walking this life of a Bushido warrior, and they don't even know it, even though my children know self-defense. But yes, the reality of it is, it's so much more than kicking and punching.
Absolutely. And people don't understand that. And that's a beautiful thing, because the bottom line is the work that you do, you allowed me to be a part of your Sledge organization, the things that I do on my own. People don't understand that is the martial way to give back and help galvanize the generations that we can help and uplift. You know, the bottom line is, before we bring Reggie on, can you just tell people what the Sledge Group is, and real quick how they can reach you? And then I want to bring Reggie in. And everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster. That's Mychal Lookup Sledge. We're talking about the documentary, but we're talking about the flowers for this man, and of course, the flowers for the filmmaker, producer extraordinaire, Reggie Bullock. And the documentary is out there. Please, it is on YouTube. Support it. We're talking about Black business, white business, whatever. We're talking about a martial arts. We're talking about a pain. We're talking about being bullied, and a man has changed his whole life around. That became a world champion and ain't never been touched before. After that, right? How about that? So shout out to my narcotics people in the building. I see you, LouisSanchez.com. I saw you, Tony Titan, in the building. Appreciate you all for chiming in. If you're watching this from YouTube, please subscribe to it so you can get more Real Talk Chronicles content. If you're watching it from Facebook, please, Facebook Live, share it under my page, Mychal's page, or Reggie's page. If you want to chime in and give a comment to Mychal or Reggie, you're going to have to go to YouTube, because I can't see what you put in their groups. So I just want to say that you're sharing the documentary and you're sharing the conversation. But if you want something to say, then you have to go to YouTube. I know it's comfort zone to be on on Facebook. But if you want to converse with them and I can read it. That's what I'm trying to do for everybody. Shout out to Irving Redden in the building too. I want to be able to read and give them flowers, because this was just all about their flowers. So let's talk about Sledge Group, what it is, and how can people reach you, and then we'll bring Reggie in.
Awesome. The Sledge Group is a 501(c) community-based organization. Prior to the pandemic, we're based in Toro Medical School, directly across from the Apollo Theater on 125th between 8th and 7th. It's a free program, Bill. You did an excellent job with the martial arts piece. Do you know when my parents signed me up in 1968, Bill, it cost $2 a month to train.
Wow.
$2 a month. And my parents struggled with the $2 a month. So Sledge Group has been free for the last 23 years. We accept donations, sledgegroup.org. My email is sledgegroup@AOL. We got Zelle. We got money sign Sledge Group for a cash app. But we're running for 23 years free. The community has lifted us up. The community has given us our respect. I'm the chief executive officer. Deborah is the COO, Deborah Sledge, and she runs the girls side, which is 12 to 18. I run the young men 12 to 18, and for 23 years, man, we just been pouring back in our community for free. But a lot of what I was taught in the dojos, Bill, is my way of giving back to my community, because even if I'm not acknowledged with the 5 national championships and the 2 gold medals, I still owe to Harlem. I'm a Harlem baby that grew up, and I need to go back into my community and pull some more young people up and guide them. You know, my dad always say, you don't get a medal or have a ticker tape parade for raising your own kids. Go help somebody else's children for free. And that's what my wife and I have been doing for the last 23 years, Bill. Thank God.
And that's awesome. Everybody, this is my personal feeling. And if you co-sign it, thumbs up. If you don't, it's all right. But sometimes the biggest rewards will never come while you're alive. They'll come when you're gone. And the thing is, you know, this was just my opportunity so you can hear from the man himself instead of somebody reading it and writing it and saying it. With that being said, I want to bring a filmmaker in. I want to bring a producer extraordinaire. And awesome. We're going to bring in Mr. Reggie Bullock himself. Everybody, let's welcome Reggie Bullock in the building. What's up, good brother? How are you, man?
What's up? How y'all doing?
I'm good.
Can you wait? I'm trying to get in the screen here.
Well,
you have to put Mike out of here.
Stop playing with our. Don't play with our emotions right now. We rocking.
Can you hear me?
You know. So, Reg, can you hear me? Okay, I know you took your ears off for a second. Go ahead. Okay, you got me.
I can hear you. I'm good.
Okay, good. So, Reg, let's talk about your career. Let's talk about where you're from first and foremost. Where are you from?
Born and raised in the Bronx, New York. But I gotta say this before we get going with anything, Bill. I used to do what you're doing years ago, and I'm gonna tell you right now, you are very, very good at what you do. This interview you've done with Mike is incredible. I'm sitting here watching this. I'm like, I don't want to go on after this. Not because Mike is a great speaker, but you're a great interviewer. You set the stage, you paint the picture. You know what I mean? You paint the picture. Real Talk Chronicles is real. And I'm not just saying this because of tonight. You know, I've been following you for a minute. Usually I'm going on Facebook. I go down for a minute. I said, let me see what Bill and his boys are talking about tonight. And then I get pulled in because you're an excellent. So I'm a little nervous. That's why I'm wearing sunglasses so people can't identify me when this thing is over. For 2 reasons. Number one, I'm like, you're talking a cross between Tavis Smiley and Oprah. So you got to get it right. That's number one. That's number one. Number two, I had a female friend of mine said, you kind of look like Bill. So I said, well, let me put on sunglasses.
Yeah. That's it, brother. Listen. Well, listen, we got the 3 bald amigos right here, baby. God is good, right? Listen.
Right. But I just gotta say, this has been, before I go into my story, my life, this has been an amazing journey with Mychal. I've learned so much about life from him, not just from the karate world, from the business world, parents, bullying. I mean, I understood that, but I understand it on a different level now. Absolutely. But I think more than anything, what he's taught me as from black man to black man is we have to be able to say we love each other. Yes. I've never really been able to do that other than the men that are closest to me. So Earl DeLezin, if you're out there, you know I love you, brother. Jimmy Bullock, you know I love you too. But I've learned all of these different things because this whole, I want to say martial arts thing in Mychal's life, it is so much more than just martial arts. And that's what I picked up from this whole journey. And to be honest, when the film was over, Mychal will tell you this, I was depressed. I went through like a week depression of, I'm talking about real depression. I'm like, yo, we can't talk anymore the way we used to, because I'm on to my next project, more into other things now.
Absolutely.
But it's such a it almost feels like a loss. Like you've raised this child. You know, the documentary is Mychal, Deborah, and my child, and we've raised this child, and now we see this child get on the school bus and go off, but the kid ain't coming back. If the kid comes back, he's going to be famous, but the kid is gone. So we've gone through all of this. But like I said, I appreciate and Mike does too. We appreciate the opportunity for you to give us this chance to do this. I mean, it's amazing. And you're so good at what you do. Now, I'm going to tell you, Mychal will be the first to tell you, I'll tell you, we're not going to just do any old show. We're not going to do that because it's going to make it look bad. It is. And then you got to help the host. You got to help him with the questions. And, you know, he started calling you Ronald Bullock. No, my name is Reggie Bullock. I'm sorry, Ronald. You know, you got to go through all that shit. You know what I mean? You got to go through all of that. And then, you know, I had this is real talk. I had, this was years ago. Somebody interviewed me about one of my films. And he said to me, he said, so I understand that you're the type of person, you believe that only 10% of Black people can lead us. And I said to him, I never said that. He said, yes, you did. I said, I never said that. He looked down at his paper. He said, oh, my bad. You didn't say that. So I'm sitting there saying, I'm very leery of people who interview me, ask me questions, because you end up making them look bad. But Bill, I'm honored. You are really, really gifted at what you do. And the interview with you and Mychal was incredible. You could shut it down right now. I know I got people that are here now to see me, but I'm telling you, if you want to say, hey, we'll be back next week, you could shut it down. That was a great interview. I'm going to go back and watch that again. That's how good it was.
I appreciate you so much, brother. And we've grown to have a mutual respect and love for each other in such a short period of time. And the beautiful thing is, I remember after you did the documentary and we exchanged numbers, and when we were talking, you said, Bill, I'm working overnight. We got to talk tomorrow. And we played phone tag for a few days because the bottom line is we understood each other's craft. You know, the bottom line is, yes, I went to school for journalism and psychology, but the bottom line is, after my career, I'm able to come back and give back and do the love. The one thing we were talking about pain, and I just want to say this for Mychal and you, Reggie, Real Talk Chronicles started from the passing of my mother, which Mother's Day is still hard for me, and her birthday is tomorrow. And then my father's birthday is the 16th. So May is kind of rough for me, but the bottom line is I live through them because I have my mother's attitude and I have my father's personality. But the beautiful thing about that and saying all that is that this started in my house and it grew because of my promotional background. And it started off with just 8 people and it grew to 50. And then it grew to almost 100 people. Then I had to start doing town halls, shopping it out to other networks. And they talking about, oh, well, we needed to be celebrity driven. And I was like, I wasn't going to give that way. You know what I'm saying? Because this is my puppy. And then having operations, I kind of shelved it. And then my wife, she was like, well, wait a minute, due to the pandemic, let's do a podcast. Everybody's doing a podcast. And this is where we are. Shout out to Richard Williams, that's part of the podcast. He's in the building. Dickie's in the building. That's his affectionate name for those that know him for a long time. Shout out to Earl DeLezin, who is my childhood friend. We went to grammar school together. We played basketball together. So he's giving much love and respect to you. Shout out to JB's in the building that we affectionately call that I worked with. And that's Who's Your Cousin. So shout out to all the people that's watching, both of you, Mychal Sledge and Reggie Bullock. So Reg, now let's get into it. So you're from the Bronx. Talk about your childhood, brother.
Ooh, childhood was it was interesting. I guess if somebody asked me the connection between my childhood and where I am today, I did weird shit as a kid. I really did. And so, and I got somebody that could actually go in the inbox and say, this is true.
Right.
This is how crazy my imagination was as a child. So I was like maybe 11 or 12. I had Jimmy, OJB, JB, your partner. I had him, my sister, and my cousin Stacy, rest in peace. I had the three of them, and I created a Black Sesame Street show with real paper puppets that I drew out. And this wasn't no regular Sesame Street. No, I remember fondly the episode or multiple episodes, but I had an episode where I had the Jackson 5. I drew out the Jackson 5 cartoons, you know, Michael Jackson, all of them. I know Mike is sitting there shaking his head like, I knew that boy was sick. But listen, I drew out all these cartoon characters, and then I had Big Bird. They had knives, and they was slicing up. They kidnapped Michael Jackson. So I had this big battle, this big brawl, and of course your partner, Jimmy Bullock, he got kicked out because he kept talking. I don't believe this. This ain't real. Michael Jackson could fight. You know, he would say stuff like that. Say, yo, you got to get out. I mean, this was like a real puppet show.
Always being negative.
Yes, being negative. I said, yo, you got to get out. Get out of the room now. And then he'd be outside my door, and I continue the puppet show, and I'm doing all these voices because I do voices. I'm doing all these voices. Where's Michael at? I don't give a damn about Michael. And so all this stuff was going on. There's a big war going on. And I hear Jimmy's voice outside going, yo, man, can I come back in the room? He was a kid. He was like 6 years old. Where were our parents? They should have monitored that and said, no, your older cousin's a little bit sick. He should not be having violence on Sesame Street. But when you go back to childhood, that's kind of what I remember the most as far as a connection today. And I tell parents, I've told parents over the years that a lot of times, and scientists, researchers have found this out, your kid can literally see y'all smiling.
No,
your
I'm laughing. You know what? I'm laughing because JB just put in the.
I know
that's enough. Don't tell no more.
I knew it. No, I knew.
Listen,
when you smile, I know it's something.
I got your back. I got your back, Reg. JB knows it is.
When you're smiling, I know he's saying something crass in the box. I'm waiting for Earl to jump on because, you know, I used to punish Earl. I was his coach. But no, going back to what I was saying, that a lot of parents don't realize your kids kind of show you who they are at a very, very early age.
Absolutely.
And you got to pay attention to that. You really do. Not blaming my parents, but I had no clue that I was always doing voices because my mother did voices. My mother cannot tell a story without doing the voice. And she's not trying to be funny. I'm trying to be funny. She's not trying to be funny. So I saw all of these things that took place. But as far as childhood, I grew up, I guess you could say the block next to Edenmore Projects, and people are familiar with Edenmore Projects on 225th Street. And the reason why 225th Street was important to me is because the train station, 225th Street stopped. The buses ran up and down 225th Street. So we saw a lot of traffic of the people who did not have cars that lived in the Edenmore Projects. They walk right through my block every day. So we saw it all. So that was interesting to see. And then I guess the other thing, this really wasn't childhood, but you know, it's something that maybe you would have Jimmy on your show one time talk about when you're talking about the beginnings of hip hop. To have Valley Park so close to me, it was a good miles away. But you're talking about, this is one of the two spots besides Cedric Avenue. This is one of the two spots that's historical for rap music because they were doing shows, which I would be remiss if I didn't say Jimmy was doing the shows too. He was. But the reality is, so when you grow up in that environment where you see all this creativity going on 223rd Street, I got a couple friends from 223rd. They had one of the editors for Essence Magazine, a great jazz musician, one of the first, what was he? Super Cool was one of the first graffiti artists. I don't know if you ever, Mike, you probably older because he's about 2 years older than me and you, Mike. And he was super cool. He was the one that was tagging the trains, which led me to doing despicable stuff in cop later on. We won't talk about that, Mike. We won't talk about the stuff I was writing on.
Listen,
but the bottom line is,
I'm a former graffiti artist, so I know what you mean.
Okay, so you understand.
I know what it's like running through them train stations at night. Trust me, I got it.
But overall, it was a good experience. You know, two-parent home. Yeah. My parents, the one thing I could say for my mom, other than reading the Bible, she was in the house all the time. You know, she went to work hard. She was in the house all the time. My father hung out a little bit, but bottom line, he was home most of the time. So I was fortunate enough to see both parents and to get this. I don't want to say it's a perfect household, but it was as perfect as it could be for that time and that place. And you know what's weird? Doing the documentary, I learned so much more about my own life just studying Mike's life. Because the first question I had in my mind, and some people asked me this after they saw part one of Mike's story, they said, well, if his Harlem neighborhood was so bad, why did his parents just pick up and move? I mean, it seems like an obvious thing. Why didn't they just move? So then I started asking Mike. We started going over. So then I asked my mom. I said, Mom, why did we grow up across from Edenmore Projects? Why did you pick there? And she gave me mind-blowing information. She said to me, she said, well, look, we were looking for a house on 233rd Street. It was still predominantly white. We're looking for a house there. And she said, when we pulled up, I had my mother's dark skin, my father's light skin. She asked my father, she said, well, you know, you got to go in and talk to them. Because if they see my brown skin getting out, we ain't getting it.
Right.
These were questions these were answers that came to me after talking to Mike about his story. So his story is so closely related to the Black experience, especially if you grew up in that time period. And then I said to my mom, I said, well, if you had got the house, would you want to stay there? She said, no, I had to worry about who was going to watch you. What school was you going to go to? What are these white kids going to pick on you?
Yeah.
What are they going to do this? She said it was too much for me. I'd rather live in a poor neighborhood where I felt safer. Although there were robberies going, I felt safer than to be in a situation where I'm around all white people. Okay, we got the exclusive house, but there was danger there. And she couldn't handle it. I learned all that from just listening to Mike tell his story.
Yeah, that's awesome. Listen, everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my special guest tonight. We have Mychal Lookup Sledge, and we have the filmmaker, producer, Reggie Bullock, extraordinaire. And we're talking about the documentary. But before we get so much immersed into the documentary, we're talking about how these two men met and came together and their childhood. Mike, I just saw that you put the thing in for the Sledge Group. Also, too, if you can, if it's feasible or if it's possible, can you put the documentary in there so people can maybe click in and look at it? But with that being said, everybody, this whole story tonight is about how one man, first, let me just go with Reggie right now. This is how one man took his friend's story and used his talents to make it a documentary. Please look at it. But the beautiful thing about Mychal Sledge's story is that we're talking about a man that was bullied and didn't succumb to the being bullied and end up becoming a world champion. And now the martial way has led to what he is doing now to give back to his community in the Sledge Group. And now him and Reggie, and now, of course, myself, we've made a pact that we're going to talk at least once a month just to check in with each other and just converse and just chop it up. Earl is in the building. He said definitely the Sledge thing is a must see. He says so powerful. His story is amazing and inspiring. Absolutely. You know, everybody, please see the thing. Everybody, if you've ever been bullied, if you need something to inspire you, not just to be a martial artist, but just maybe to go in there and ask your boss for a raise, maybe to leave the job that you're doing that you feel is dead end, whatever. Maybe you have a talent that you are scared to inspire to push it to that next level. The bottom line is, in my life, I never would have thought I'd have been doing this. I thought I always inspired to be on the news. I always said I wanted to be a newscaster and stuff like that. But look at this. Now I'm my own boss and I'm doing Real Talk Chronicles. But I did it after the passing of my mother. So, okay, I took a pain and I made it something and I'm doing something with it. With that being said and saying all that, Reggie, when did you get into doing starting to think about doing filmmaking?
It's always been there. There's a handful of people that know me from way back that can tell you, like, one of the first things I remember was I made a couple of clips and I would put music behind video clips. And for whatever reason, people would really be saying that was really, really good. I didn't think it was that special. I said, no, that's just music behind video images. But what I didn't realize was it was a gift. I was starting to realize that, wait a minute, every time you put this song behind a dunk tape, whatever it is, behind a boxing tape, kids would always come up to me. I think all of my former students, they always come up to me and say, Mr. Bullock, that was really, really good. I'm like, yeah, but it's just music behind a video clip of Marvin Hagler knocking somebody out. What I didn't realize was I had a gift at that time of selecting the right music and then picking the right video image to go with it. And I wouldn't just do it one time. I would do it over and over and over again. I would take two VHSs and put them together with some wires and do that. And people would say, how'd you do that? I said, well, you know, I'm just playing around with it. Then it continued as time went on. Each year with each student, I would get better and better and better, but not to the point where I want to do videos. But where it all changed, I got to give my nephew RJ, who had he had some kind of filmmaking program. And I remember he was no more than 11 or 12, and his voice hadn't changed. He said, Uncle Craig, you know, because they call me Craig. Uncle Craig, I got to show you something. So he shows me this video thing he's doing. And I said, whoa. In my mind, I'm thinking of all the stuff I've done for years. And this little kid is showing me something on computer. So then he said, I want you to pretend that you're Joe Jackson. I said, Joe Jackson? He said, just so he got me a paper mustache. They stuck the mustache to my mouth. I had a little fake afro. So I was supposedly, God forgive me, I'm sorry for doing this. I shouldn't have done this at the time. But this was when the stories were coming out that Joe Jackson was beating Mychal. So he asked me, I'm blaming RJ on all of this. He asked me, he said, no, I want you to be Joe Jackson. They gave me a belt and they wanted me to walk upstairs and beat an empty pillow that was covered. Beat the pillow as if it was Mychal.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, I'll do it with a little kid. So I go upstairs and I'm just hitting the thing, you know. And so a couple of weeks later, Uncle Craig, you got to see what I made. So my sister had already told me ahead of time. She said, no, I don't like this. It's kind of dark and I don't like my brother being a part of it. I said, part of what? It's just a little joke film clip. But when I went up and saw this is what got the catalyst, everything rolling in my head as far as filmmaking. He slow-mo'd me beating the pillow down. Mm-hmm. And you couldn't see it was getting. Then he put his own voice behind it. Daddy, stop! Daddy, stop! Wow. So I'm sitting there whipping this thing. I'm like, Mychal, you're gonna dance, Mychal, you're going to. And I'm beating the thing in slow motion. But the greatest thing he did, he put the most horrific horror music behind it. Where it was like, Dana, Dana, and I'm beating this pillow, Dana, Mychal. And I said, whoa. And I said, hey, RJ, I'm uncomfortable with that. Don't show that to your friends. It's too late, Uncle Craig. I showed it to everybody in school. But I'm like, I'm thinking like this. I'm like, wow, he was able to take music, images, slow it down, and he created a story. It was only a 30-second clip, but he created a story. And it made me look bad because they were like, whoa, your uncle, I really look like that person, you know, because it was. But then I said, wow, if he could do that at 11 or 12 years old, what can I do? So I said, what's that program? So then I got the program and started fooling around. And then one thing led to another. And then the rest is history.
So with that being said, everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles, because I have an excellent question coming for you in a second. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Brenda and, of course, Richard. They wanted to say something in regards to, they said, yes, the middle school children love the documentary and ask great questions. And that's a testament to the story and the producer and the filmmaker. Richard said Mychal was able to get some of the kids that had been bullied, that was afraid to speak out, to admit to him that they needed help. Wow. Earl Delesting, astonishing talent. Vivian Garcia is in the building. She said, nice. So let me ask you a question, Reggie, because this is the point where you're understanding filmmaking, but you're also understanding acting. Because acting is another part of something that I enjoy doing. I've done some documentaries that I've been in and also done some Law and Order stuff. So I say all that to say that acting, I used to always say I was the missing link between Denzel and Wesley when I had.
You're going to be in my next film.
You know what I'm saying?
No, you're going to be in my next film. I'm just putting it out there. Bill going to be in the next film. Give a hand, Bill Foster.
But you know what? The thing is, due to law enforcement, I was able to start getting acting gigs and doing extra stuff. So I kind of understood and started feeling, tasting what that acting life was. So it always goes on the resume. So now from a film producer standpoint, you understand the action, the directorial part of being the actor and then seeing the product. Talk to me about how, like you said, and then you end up doing your own little work. But talk to me how that motivated you to get into actually doing film work.
Mike said something that was so important earlier. He said that, or maybe he said this another time. I'm confused. By the way, this is my second class. I enjoyed your thing so much. I had to open up a wine. I said, this is good. They really doing a good interview. But I got to say this. When Mychal has always said that his steps were ordered. his steps were ordered. Like there's no way this stuff. So when you ask the question as far as the technical aspect and the details of it, I want to say, I want to give you a technical and detailed answer, but this stuff is coming from somewhere else. It's not even me. It's like a higher power. Well, it is a higher power. I just don't like to get into religious aspects, but it really is a higher power because certain things just happened. It kept going again and again. That kept pushing me. I never sat out to say I want to be a filmmaker. 11, 12 years ago, I had just retired. I'd gotten sick. I just retired from working with kids. So I never wanted to do this. So it's not something I wanted to do. And I was mostly working with Black kids my entire life, Black and Puerto Rican kids. That was my audience.
Let me interject for a second. What were you doing before you retired?
I was a teacher for about 17 years in 2 different school systems. And it was interesting, not to go too far into that, but it was interesting. I worked at a predominantly white private school where the kids, most of the white kids that went there were very, very wealthy. Now, this is where me and your friend Earl met. He's coming up on a basketball scholarship, and most of the Black students up there, they were on a basketball scholarship or a sports scholarship. So that's how I met them. Then from there, so I got to see this other side of life of all these rich and wealthy kids that even if they didn't make it, they had a support system where their mother and father were lawyers and doctors. So they could not fail no matter what. Whereas Earl was going to have to hustle no matter what. Absolutely. And so I saw those kids, but then I went to a public school where I'm working with all Section 8 kids, Black and Puerto Rican. This was different. And the reason why I say it's different is for me, and this is why I love what Mike and Deborah are doing, because those are the kids I work with the second half of my career. And working with those kids, what I saw was that if one kid was able to get into a community college, I felt so happy, like I had done something, like I'd really done something. The other school, I worked with maybe 20 seniors. All 20 were getting into college. One way or another, all 20 were getting into college. But when I went to a regular public school, that was the first time I said, whoa, I could see the difference. Because none of those kids were going to college. Those kids were thinking about anything. And to see some of those kids have, and I don't mean to say this, but see some of those kids have 4 and 5 babies by the time they were 22, it was really, really rough. So that's why, not to go off on a tangent, I'm glad you split this thing up because I will go into tangents. But this is why I'll go off on a whole teaching thing for an hour. But no, this is
what we're going to. How about this? And I will say this. Excuse me for interjecting, but we will bring you back on another topic on another show when we do Wednesdays, and we can talk about youth and stuff like that. Because the bottom line is, once you know you're part of Real Talk, once you hear, you're always welcome back. All you got to do is say, "Yo, I want to come back." Mike knows that, but a lot of times Wednesdays and stuff. But I love to bring Mike back with the doctor. We could talk about health and stuff like that. But I want to take a shot at our boy Earl. Yo, I'm gonna get at you right now, Reggie, for coaching him because listen, the man, he never wanted to play defense. We played grammar school together. He don't want to play. He didn't want to play defense then. He went to school. I know the boarding school you're talking about. He went there. He still didn't come back and play defense. He got phenomenal talent. He always had phenomenal talent. But the son of a gun did never want to play defense.
Never.
I had to chase his man, my man, and then we argue all the time. That's my guy. We go back to grammar school. I love him to death. But we argue in a minute. This is the only friend I know we argue every goddamn time.
Yes.
Together.
He's hard headed.
Go ahead. Please go ahead.
No, let me tell you.
We can have a whole show on him.
We are. But I gotta say this for Earl because I know he's listening. Because I always say, I remind him of this every 3 months. My greatest coaching moment in my entire life came from your boy. We were playing a team that they had this 6'6" kid. He had a Division I scholarship. He was the talk of the division up there. And we played this team once before and they beat us. And we were playing him. I think it was a tournament. I'm not sure. We're playing him again. And we're playing them tight all the way to the end. But they're up by 1 with about 15 seconds to go.
Oh, Lord.
I'm a young coach. Now, you got to realize me and Earl are not that far. I'm a young coach. I call the timeout.
Yeah.
We got the headmaster of the school is sitting there. This guy used to coach professional basketball, so he knew his stuff. Yeah. He's screaming, Reggie, you got to do this. You got to do this. He's screaming. I got to respect him because I'm a young guy, and I know this guy's history. This guy played with Metal Lemon, but he's old. So I'm sitting there. The parents, it was Parents' Day. I believe Earl's mother was there. The crowd is packed. And I sat there and I called this one player. I said, okay, this is what you guys do. Play number 32. Go here, pass a couple times. And then Earl, I looked at him and said, and you're going to take the shot.
Oh, Lord, why the hell you do that?
And I know, because you can't tell him nothing to this day. You can't tell him nothing to this day.
Oh, my God.
To this day. So they running the play. And I'm nervous for him because he's never been in this situation. As a coach, I've never been in this situation. And it was like slow motion. They passed the ball to him. And he got it, and he rose up. And I mean, he flicked this thing. It dropped to the bottom of the net, and literally, excuse my language, blocked me out. I said, oh, shit, it worked. This is what I'm thinking. I'm like, the play worked. I wanted to stop everybody and say, yo, I didn't think it would work. He hit it. It was all net, and we won the game.
Well, I ain't going to stay on his ass, but listen, we know the one thing. I can tell you a story. When we was in grammar school, the whole school wanted to beat his ass. We played All Saints. And Earl, I ain't gonna stay on you. I don't want to deviate this. The coach put him in. Shout out to Laverne White. Put him in. He said, Earl. I think one of the other players fouled out. They said, put him in. They said, yo, freeze the time. You know, there was just no clock at that time. There's no 24-second clock. Just pass the ball around. He said, Earl, don't shoot. Boom. Put him in. We down it's about a minute to go in the game. Ball goes, swings over to Earl. He shoots the damn ball. They get the ball, run down, and win the damn game. Yo, the whole team wanted to beat his ass. You know what Earl's mentality was? He said, yo, if I would have made it, I'd have been on my Johnson. If I missed it, yo, it is what it is. Yo, shout out to Earl. You're a piece of work, brother.
Shout out. Yes, Earl. Love you, brother. Love you.
Love you, man. Yo, so anyway, let's get to how you met our brother here, Mychal Sledge. Where did you meet him at?
We met up at
Before we get to that, hold on, Reggie. Before we get to that, let's talk about some of the work you've done before you did the Sledge Group, the documentary.
I did a film, War for Your Soul, and we estimated it's probably about 20 million people because we kept having to delete these sites. People were making money off of this. I never wanted to make money, and this is what happened. Real quick story. I was sitting there the night that Obama got elected. I'm sitting by myself. My ex-wife and my son, they're in the bedroom half asleep. And I'm sitting there watching TV. I'm like, yo, it really happened. There's a black man. And didn't hit me until I saw Michelle Obama and the two girls walk out. I said, whoa, we in. You know, this is what I'm thinking. So in my mind, I wasn't teaching at the time. I said, in my mind, I need to make a film about 15 minutes long. And when this stuff comes to me, it just comes to me. About 15 minutes long. And it would describe what we've gone through from 1619 to the moment that there is a black president. And so all I want to do, I wasn't thinking about filmmaking or becoming a filmmaker. I said, all I want to do was put this film together and make it for somebody like me, meaning if you're working with predominantly black and Puerto Rican kids, kids of color, and even some white kids, if you're working with these kids, you need to show them your history. Can you condense your history from 1619 up to 2008? Can you do that in 15 minutes and touch them? And the weird thing is, as far as writing, the toughest thing for me is to write all the dialogue that I put in Mychal's film. That's all me. All the voices you hear are all me, except for a handful of friends. But when I started doing that, the voiceover stuff, it was just coming to me. You know, I was doing the Grand Master of Darkness. This is what I do to black people. I destroy them. I do this. I do that. So I started doing all these voices. And then after about, I hadn't even put any video images. After about, I would say, maybe 20 minutes, not 20 minutes in, because the film's only 15 minutes, maybe 10 minutes in, I called my ex-wife in and I said, hey, listen to this. She heard it and she said, when did you do that? How did you do that? How long did that take? I said, I did it in about 25 minutes. She said, that's impossible. She said, that's so well written. I said, I don't know. It just came in my head. So then from there, what I said was, okay, if I can do this, is something I remind Mychal from time to time. I said, if this film can reach one black kid to see the struggles that the ancestors went through from 1619 to this moment in time, it's got to make you do better in school. It's got to make you do better on the court. It's got to make you do better in something. You know, you are an important person. Look at what the pain that your people went through to get to this point. Wow. So that's something that I did, hoping that one person would do it. And the crazy thing is, Bill, The first time that 90 people liked my video, I went crazy. I said, 90 people. I was calling every relative. I said, you had something to do with this, right? You had something to do with this. No, I didn't have to. Yes, you did. You told 90 of your friends. No, I was sitting there, I just kept looking at the number 90 people. And you juxtapose that to about a year and a half later, there was 10,000 people who liked it on one day. And I was happy that 90 people liked it on one day. And yet a year and a half later, 10,000 liked it on one day, to the point it turned into millions of people. And then CNN and Michael Baisden, and I'm traveling all over the country, 60 speaking engagements, staying at resorts, not hotel resorts, stuff like that. And I stayed humble throughout the whole thing because, first of all, I was old. Second of all, I didn't come into it with the intention of being a filmmaker. So when people would say to me, wow, you're a great filmmaker, I'll go, I am. I didn't say this out loud. I would play it off. Yes, I'm a filmmaker. Yeah. I would play it off. But deep down inside, the confidence, and these were things that you and Michael were talking about early, the confidence was not there. I said, well, and this is before, viral videos were out. You can't get people to watch a 15-minute video on YouTube today. You can't get that. No. 15 straight minutes. No, they're gone in a minute. So this was during that time period. So it happened. So when you asked me that question, to get back to the answer to the question, when you asked me that question about the details, how'd you go from here to there? I could give you that, but the reality is, it's a higher power did that. And I'll say one last thing. There was a sister that asked me, she was from Ghana or either Nigeria, and she was a she was a professor at University of North Carolina, and they invited me down to speak. She asked me the same question you were asking me. I said, well, this and that. And she said, Mr. Bullock, let me tell you something. You seem to be too shy. I said, what are you talking about? You seem not to take credit for what you have done. Man, this is great work. Be proud of your work. And I told her, and I still believe this, I said, ma'am, if a person that has no film background could sit in a room on a computer and make something that 10 and 20 million people would see around the world, Nigeria, it's still being shown in Nigeria. I said, if somebody could do that, that ain't me.
Wow.
I said, now give me credit for my foolishness. Yeah. I can dance now. I'm a dancer. But the bottom line is, I can't take that. I said, that's a higher power that did that. And that's why I was telling Mike about his life. There's a higher power that's been guiding Mychal Sledge's life for a long time. He didn't even know it.
Well, what's so funny? That's a beautiful story. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm here with Mychal Lookup Sledge, and I'm here with the filmmaker, producer extraordinaire, Reggie Bullock. And this is a story about how two men came together to tell one story about a man that was bullied. And you can take what you want from the documentary, because I see it's about perseverance. I mean, we got other stories about the little young white guy, Rudy, that played football. We have other stories about so many other people persevering. If you hear they're both stories right now, then it should inspire you to do anything. If not anything, by the end of the night, it should tell you to tell somebody, I love you. You know what I'm saying? That's where it really is about. It's about telling somebody, I love you, and you can be anything you want to be. The bottom line is all you got to do is try. Because I think we're all born, and help me out, fellas, with this. I think we're all born with multiple talents. But the thing with that being said is, what talents wants to take us to a financial aspect, what's going to take us to a spiritual place, and what's going to take us to a place where we're happy doing what we do. You know what I'm saying, Mike? Because the bottom line is, I want both of you to talk about that, because the bottom line is, there's multiple things that you both have done in your lives. Reggie, you've been a teacher, and then you're doing the filmmaking stuff. You also, before we get out here, you got to let people know where they can find that documentary so they can see that thing. But Mike, you and Reggie both, and I'll start with you, Mike. Let's talk about the multiple talents that we all possess that have come together to fruition, because you've taken martial arts, you've become a supervisor at your former job, and then also now you have a organization, Sledge Group, that is giving back, and it's 23 years in the making. Reggie, you become a teacher, you was an educator, and then you transition into a filmmaker, unbeknown to you that you really wanted to do that. And look at what you're doing now. You got, like you said, you got millions of people watching it. So I'll go to you, Mike. Go ahead, please elaborate.
I believe those visions and those dreams and the purpose is in all of us. I believe fear robs us. It puts us in a catatonic state and doesn't allow us to live those dreams. and I don't want this podcast to be a martial arts podcast, right, Bill? But the reality of it is, what was driven in me as a child into adulthood, I took into the government. I retired as not a supervisor. I retired as a senior plant manager of the Tri-Bell District. I got JFK International, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island under my belt, over 15,000 employees. I'm head cheese. But the fear I had to push past, and also having a good mate in my life, which is important for a lot of us, and I love what you and Malika are doing and what you guys are building, man. But the reality of it is, it's in us. A lot of us are so complacent with just the way life is, and not realize the gift of life and what Almighty God has put in us to reach for. Most of us, the three of us as men, we far succeeded what our parents wanted. The ancestors are smiling down upon us at this moment, but tomorrow is not promised. It doesn't take much to change the world. It just takes you to change yourself. Like I talk about those losses and those matches that is never publicized. It made me a better person. Falling down, getting up made me a better person. Persevering, going through obstacles made me a better person. But I believe that vision and that dream. Reggie is a creative genius. Bill, this is a joke of ours. He gave birth. The documentary is called Mychal, Mychal, the full documentary. But Reggie gave birth of 9 months, calling me for 2 and 3 hours every day and rehashing my life story. The beauty of it is, when I met Reggie, and I got to say this, Bill, I haven't seen Reggie since 1978. Physically put my hands on him, and I'll probably grab his bald head. He used to have an afro like me, right? Exactly. But I haven't seen him. For this man to come in my life and ask me over and over and over to do a documentary on my life, and me tell him no over and over and over again. No, he's a creative genius. I tease him about being bipolar because he can do these different voices. Reggie is a creative genius. Absolutely. Creative. And he loves our history as people. That's my part on our vision and our purpose in life, man.
Yeah, Reggie, talk about that, and as you say your piece, I want you to segue into, where'd you meet Mychal?
Well, actually, I'm gonna segue into that now because I'm gonna forget it.
Okay.
Me and Mychal met. Of course, we're gonna cling to each other because I think there might have been one other person from New York up at the college we went to. And that person was, they were from like Long Island. No disrespect, Long Island, because Long Island has changed. Not the Long Island. Listen, not the Long Island.
The 5 boroughs, baby. Exactly. Yeah.
Now Hempstead has changed. I know about some Hempstead now. It's changed.
Yeah, they get it in.
The thing was, when you meet somebody from Harlem, they would call Mike's nickname was City. They would call him City. I refuse to call him that because I'm from the Bronx. Why am I gonna call him City? I'm from the place he call him.
You City too. You City too.
Yeah, I'm City too. I was really jealous because Mike was more popular. Because I was silly. But no, the thing was, me and Mike were going to hang out one day. And he said, well, stop by my dorm and we'll walk up to whatever party. Neither one of us had a car. So I stopped by his dorm. And I'm telling you, this is a funny story, but it is straight from God. Whatever you believe in is straight from Bill. I walked into his room. He had the tiniest room. My room was tiny. He had a tiny room. The bed is like at the door. As soon as you walk in, you might as well crawl in bed.
The dorm.
So, I mean, literally. And so I walked into his room, I closed the door, and Mike says, yo, look behind you. He does the little thing, he does the head nod, look behind you. Mm-hmm. So I try to look behind his door. There's a big picture of Mike cheesing with this bow tie when he was in the first or second grade. And he's going, I busted out laughing. Mike started laughing. I said, yo, where'd you get that from? He said, that's me in the first or second grade. We did not know that picture of him with the bow tie would be the precipice behind so much of the film. 50 something years later.
Yes.
We're laughing like kids and teenagers. I was 17. I went to college early, not because I was smart. I had an early birthday and my mother never left me back. She should have. So I shouldn't have been in school with that. I'm 17, Mike's about 18 or 19. And we are laughing hysterically, so much to the point that I went and had a blown up picture of myself in the first grade. And I put it on my wall. It didn't get the same appeal Mike's did. But that's how funny it was. Because I was like, yo, here's this guy willing to make fun of himself with the bow tie as a little kid. If Jesus had walked in the room and said, hey, you know what? Y'all are laughing, but that picture is going to change both of your lives. Absolutely. 50 years later, I say, come on, Jesus, you're high. You're high. You've been smoking something, because no, Mike would have said the same thing. So that's kind of the biggest story I remember us going through, besides looking out for each other in particular situations I won't name. But
so the moral, you guys met in college, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
And let me just read some comments real quick. Shout out to my brother Eddie Vieira on YouTube. He said, definitely one of your most iconic shows. Bravo, and much respect to your guests. Absolutely. Brenda McLaughlin, Sister Brenda, she said, two incredible and powerful Black men that our young people can look up to and can aspire to be whatever they put their minds to. God be the glory. Absolutely.
Thank you.
I want people to make sure that they understand this. And like you said, Mike, and please, I referenced the martial arts, but this story is more about a person perseverance. This is about overcoming obstacles. So, but it was the martial arts was the avenue. In life, we all have doors, and what doors you choose to go through is your option. In life, I tell people all the time, you have choices. I could go someplace and a person will say, even if it's dealing with business or something like that, and the person will say, well, I can't do that. No, you can do that. You got choices. You can find a way to do it. I don't want to hear that shit. Make it happen. I don't want to hear it. No, it's not acceptable to me. The only person I've learned to take no from was my parents and my wife. You understand what I'm saying? Because God,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but can I say this? What you just said was so powerful, because halfway through the film, I went through this you could almost call it mental breakdown, just for this one simple fact. I said, you have no live footage. Because of the pandemic and my illness, Mike's illness, we can't get out and interview people. We can't fly. I'm down in North Carolina. I can't fly back and forth. Halfway through this thing, I'm doubting myself and saying, you can't go any further than part one. That's all you got.
Right.
And one of our good friends, along with Mike, said the same thing. But one of our good friends, Jimmy Fields, he said this. He said, look, I don't want to hear that. I'm like, Jimmy, but do you understand? What I wanted from Mike and Jimmy, I want them to feel sorry for me. I want them to say, oh, poor Reggie. Yeah, try your best. That's what I wanted. You know what both of them told me? So what? Wow. You're great at what you do. Do it. And I started thinking, if I ran into Mike Tyson on the street and he grabbed my daughter's butt, I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, yeah, I'm not a professional boxer. No. I don't know how to box.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to fight Mike right then and there. There's no excuses. Absolutely. And both of them, and I give Mike credit for this. This is why Mike is not only an executive producer for the way he helped me put it together, but executive producer as far as his inspiration. Mike and Jimmy literally said, yo, do it. You're good. You're great. And he said that like, I don't hear that. Please get off the phone. I don't want to talk to you anymore.
And I don't know if that's the name.
You do it or you don't. And that's what you said.
The name Jimmy Breslin. I don't know if that's the name that you're talking about. But the bottom line is, when we talk about certain things, it's beautiful, because the one thing, as we conversed earlier, fellas, I told you this is about an inspirational story, and this is why it's all about me giving you guys your flowers, because the bottom line is, if it's never said today, after today, you know how I feel about you, and I felt it was important for me to put you in a position where people can listen, and that's all that matters. I looked earlier. I think we're already up to 12 shares. How phenomenal is that? So that means people are sharing their story, and it should be more. Hopefully it gets 20, 25. As many people that's watching, I'll look at the numbers later and find out who shares, and not who literally shares it, but the fact that the numbers of shares. Because if you don't share it, this is something you make your kids sit down, he or she, and sit down and tell them you can be anything you fucking want to be. I say that with conviction and anger, because the bottom line is, I'm tired of people coddling and talk about, Mike, you know this from a martial arts standpoint, and or competition. I don't even have to say that. Any competition. Earl knows this. Anybody. We all know this. Right now, they have 8 places for a trophy. What kind of nonsense is that? Listen,
Mm-hmm.
1-4, 6 is pushing it. But listen, you know what I'm saying? Listen, try to be the best. Don't be part of the band. Listen, I ain't trying to be part of the Greek club. Go ahead, Mike. Elaborate.
You know what's important, man. Sensei Cooper would tell us if we won second or third, you know how that feel, but you didn't come here for that. You didn't come here for that. Know your assignment.
Yes.
Understand your assignment. Bill, my mom's is still alive. She taught me and my brother, you want the car, you want the nice house, you want to be able to go to the movies and the theater and all that. Get another job, boy. Get another job. And it wasn't pretty the way it was poured into us, but you got parents and not just the mothers breastfeeding their kids now.
Yeah.
Okay. The truth of the matter is we need the support system around us. If it's an hour of power with me, you, and Reggie, Bill, know your assignment. I'm grateful on what you're doing with this podcast, Real Talk Chronicles. Yes. We can talk like real men and not sugarcoat shit. The reality of it is when you want to hear the truth, and a lot of people don't want me on a podcast because I'll tell them the damn truth. Yo, Reggie, no, your show is garbage. Okay, you're pimping my art. You don't know how to host.
Yes, you will.
I got more time behind me than I got ahead of me. I ain't got time for this bull.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, Bill, let me throw you one more thing in, Bill. I gotta say this, and you got the wrong Bill. I'm gonna tell you, you got the worst two people you could have. Me and Mike can go forever. We'll go for like 5 hours. So you better. But I gotta say this: if somebody had told you, Bill, 40 years ago, before you even got on the police department, somebody had told you you're gonna be holding. We calling it a podcast, but it's a radio show. It's a TV show. Let's call it for what it was when we were growing up.
Yes.
Somebody had told you that you were going to be at this level. You might have said, "Oh, that sounds interesting," but you might have had that doubt. If somebody had told Mychal, even at the height of his karate, you know what? You're going to be saving children of Harlem. Your kids are going to meet the mayor of Bloomberg. You're going to be down at the Washington Capitol. If somebody told me that literally my stuff was going to be on CNN, I'm sitting there crying when I'm here. There's the brother. He got to film out, go war for your soul. I'm sitting there going, "Oh my Lord." Yeah. If somebody told the three of us, we might not have believed that. And I think that's our assignment going from here on in is to let our young people, boys, girls, I don't care what color you are, you really do have the power to do whatever you want. But one thing Mike has always said, I learned this from just watching. He never said this. I learned this from studying his career as far as interviewing him. You got to put in the work. Yeah. Got to put that work in.
And you know what's so funny? I'm going to piggyback on that, and I'm going to show some full transparency. I just want to read some comments real quick. Andre Richardson, second place means you lost. Brenda said, "Amen, the truth hurts." Earl said, "The word can is unacceptable." Let me just tell you a story. And after with that story, because we're coming on our hour, and I promised you too, I want you guys to tell me after I make my statement, and I'll reiterate it, what do you hope from your eyes, in your voice, in your heart, that you want this podcast, not this podcast, but you want this documentary to mean for people that will watch it. But let me just give you a transparent moment, if I may. Basketball was always my passion. I loved it, but football was my talent, right? There was a team in the Bronx, at the time they had the little street teams, the Road Runners, the Convent Saints and stuff like that. And they asked me to be the quarterback for the Road Runners. I'm probably one of a few people back then that could throw with both hands. I was born lefty, but my parents changed me, the devil spoon. And as I got older, I became ambidextrous. I could throw a football, a basketball. I could shoot a basketball. I could throw a baseball with both hands. I fight lefty. I'm natural southpaw. With that being said, I got offered a scholarship to run track at Iona. I didn't really want that. I wanted my letter in basketball, but I said to my parents wanted me to go to Howard. And this just goes back to what we were talking about, what you can be and not be, and certain things put you back. And Mike, this reminds me of what you were saying about parents, and Reggie, you talk about your parents. And I just wanted to just tell everybody out there, tell your children, don't hinder their dreams. Like, enforce it. This is the moral of my story. So I told my parents, they wanted me to go to Howard. All my family is from the DMV area, so they was like, go to Howard. So I told my parents, I said, okay, I'll go to Howard. Right? I graduated like 13th out of all seniors and stuff like that, out of Hollows in the Bronx. Shout out to AH. And I say this because the year I graduated, everybody that we played against, Earl knows this, everybody went to the pros. Even like the Alvin Locks that didn't go to the pros were pro talented. They just maybe didn't grow. But the bottom line, I graduated Kenny Smith, Pearl Washington, Lawrence Jackson. I graduated with Olden. We went to school together. So everybody went to the pros, right? So I may have bust your ass on the regular court, but you see the talent that was around me. I say all that to say, but football was it, man. I could do anything on the football field. And I told my mother, I said, listen, this is what I need you to do. My mother, I said, yo, you want me to go to Howard? Sponsor me. I'll spend the whole summer getting my body in football shape. I was already track ready because I was already running track. I said, I'll just get my football body ready. I'll go to Howard for you. And I promise you, if you let me not work this summer, I will walk on Howard University and I'll get me a scholarship. Some way, hella hot water. But this is how sometimes family, Mike, going back to what we were talking about, family before Reggie came on, my mother said, yo, listen, bro, you need to worry about getting an education or getting a job. I don't know what dreams you got going on in your head, but you know, my era was Martin Luther King, you know, and if you're going to be Malcolm or you're going to be Martin, you know what I'm saying? Because we understood what the Black Panthers were about, but they said, listen, I don't want to hear about that walking on, stuff like that. Get you an education. Of course, that turned back, so I can only think about what could have been. But ever then, I don't hold it against her because I still ended up with a career. And this is why we talk about multiple talents and stuff like that. Because the bottom line is when I go around and speak at schools and kids tell me they want to be a basketball player or athlete, I say, what would happen if you break your leg and you have a career-ending injury? You still got to have something else. So I never held that like, I'm mad at my moms and my father for that. But the bottom line is it just made me find another lane. Now, with that being said, I want to ask you guys both a question, and I'll let you start. I'll start with you, Reggie, and then I'll end with you, Mike. Let me just read something. Earl said, Bill always been a public figure in the public. Mayor's office, detective, bus driver, etc. Thank you, Earl. He said, Black president, check. Black woman, vice president, check. Anything is possible. Alvin Lott was my guy. Lots of battles at Hayes. Absolutely. What's up, Harold Freeman? What's up, Shamika? Shout out to everybody that's watching. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster. This is about the documentary about one man, Mychal Sledge, and it's about the other man that made the documentary, Reggie Bullock. This is Real Talk Chronicles. Subscribe to it if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, share it, please. This is history in the making right now. This is flowers given before anybody's leave. Like Mike said earlier, listen, our best years are behind us, but we still gonna rock these years right now, right, Mike? So with that being said, because we are at that time, and I want to go on and on, but I know we're at our age, we need bathroom breaks, we need libation breaks, and it's just time to go. And we don't want to ADD anybody, you know what I'm saying? With that being said, this documentary is about preservation from my aspect, what one can become, what perseverance. That's what I take from this documentary, besides being a talent. Shout out to Mo Weathers in the building. So, Reggie, I'll start with you. Take as long as you want. You know, take as long as you want to. Don't take all day. You know, you know what I'm saying? And then, Mike, you do the same. You know, you got to throw some humor shit at the end of it, right? Because this is what it's about. This is a brotherhood right here, and this is a family shit. So, Reggie, as long as you want, on the serious side, though, talk about what made you do it and what do you want people to get out of it. And then, Mike, the same question goes for you. Go ahead, Reggie, please.
My reason for doing this film, well, Mike and I had connected years ago when I sent him a DVD copy of A War for Your Soul. So we had reconnected. But I don't know how I think it was because we're Facebook friends. I saw one karate picture. I was just curious. And so I called him and we started talking. I said, "You got a gold medal?" He said, "Yeah, I got a couple gold medals." So I'm hearing this. And it still didn't click in until I asked him this one question. I said, "Mike, what made you want to do this?" And he said, "I was getting my ass kicked every day as a child."
Absolutely.
I said, "Really?" He said, "I said, what do you mean?" He said, "Bloody shirts." The way he was describing it, it made me flash back to stuff that happened to me. And then I started calling it 4 or 5 of my friends, black males, that, and I said this in the film, but this is real talk. Well, it's Real Talk Chronicles, but it's real talk that most black men that grow up in the inner city, bullying is different. It's a different game. Absolutely. It ain't, "Oh, I took your cake. Oh, I'm teasing. I'm making fun of you." No, they beat your ass.
Yes.
And beat it again until you fight back.
Pain comes with bullying. Pain comes with
bullying. You bloody. They're going to knock your teeth out. They're going to do all kinds of stuff. I got a friend. I'm going to do a little piece on him. He said all 4 of his front teeth were knocked out when he was a child. He was crawling up under the car looking for his teeth in the DMV area, by the way. But my thing was, after I heard him say this, then the wheels started spinning. I said, "Hey, Mike, you want to really talk about this?" He was like, "Nah, I don't want to do that." I said, "Why?" I said, it's going to be a great story, especially how it ended up. I didn't know anything about the post office. I didn't know anything about his relationship with him and Deb. I didn't know all these other jewels of his life. I literally, in my mind, was saying, bully, karate, kids need to hear this. I didn't know the full. So it started out as a karate, literally in my mind, as a karate film that can help people overcome things. But as time went on, I started finding out the full who Mychal Sledge was. And by the end, we were getting the debates of this. He said, "Where are you going with this? You all over the place with this shit." I said, "Mike, you got to understand, you're bigger than karate. You're actually bigger than that." And he kept saying over and over again, this is what we talked about on the phone earlier. He kept saying, "Reg, you got to understand, karate is a way of life. I'm uncomfortable with the light shining on me like that. But at the same time," I sold it to him. I said, "But Mike, you can't have all your grandmasters, the people ahead of you. You're going to just let that go and our kids don't know." And this is real talk also. I didn't know because I felt left out after talking to Mike. I said, my parents should have had me learn karate, not for self-defense. I didn't know that was a big part of who we were as black men. I didn't know this. I didn't know about Bill Foster. I didn't know about Nequan. I didn't know about Papa San Kid. I didn't know about any of this. All I know is Bruce Lee, Jet Li, what's his name? All the John Saxon. That's all I knew about. And then throw in Jim Kelly, and of course he got killed first in Enter the Dragon. But I mean, that's all I knew. I knew nothing that we even. And then Mike was. I mean, I'm telling you, there's going to be other films down the road that's going to deal with this. Bill, you need to be involved in this. But Mike threw out. He said, "Do you realize that 4 of the oldest martial arts formed, they came from the motherland?" I said, "Really?" Yeah. And then he started running off the names. I'm sitting at my computer, typing in. As soon as I typed in a picture, came it was all black people. He gave me another one, all black people. I'm like, whoa! And I had heard Tariq Nasheem had said, I'm gonna cut it short now. Tariq Nasheem, who does Hidden Colors documentary, he had said one of the first person that had come over to China and taught them of the whole samurai thing was a black man from Africa. He named him. So I'm connecting to what Mike was saying. I'm like, wait a minute. It's like being black today and growing up, find out, wait a minute, there was a Michael Jordan, there was a Wilt Chamberlain, there was a Dr. J. And then the way Mike explained it, and I don't mean to offend anybody, they're Asian, white. I'm not trying to offend you. I'm just telling you history.
It's real talk.
It's real talk. The way Mike said this, he said, "Reggie, we were better than them." Yeah. So what are you talking about? He said, "We were better. Yeah, we were better than them. Our bodies are built different." And then I started swirling around in my head. I said, wait a minute. Could you ask Shaq to go over to China? His body is different. And battle with the J, he would destroy them. Mike was basically saying our limbs, our arms, our speed, the way we stand, it's different. Yeah. And that was the part that said to me, I said, whoa, we got something here that's bigger than just your story, Mike. And there has to be another story told about that. And I would love Mike and all the other karate greats who have not, that are alive, to still get their flowers as well.
Absolutely.
So anyway,
hopefully those that are listening, ghosts listening, watching, that will watch later on, that may reach out to you and want you to do this because listen, it's about giving our flowers back to our Black businesses
Yes.
too. No disrespect to our white counterparts,
Right. No disrespect.
but no disrespect. But the bottom line is sometimes you take care of your family first, and then everybody else get to eat. With that being said, Mike, what's your thought process, brother?
I wanted to pay homage to my mentors, my guides, my instructors. And you know, I don't share this enough, but there's so many martial artists out there now and that have transcended on and past that will never smell their roses, Bill.
No.
Okay. And I'm talking YouTube, I'm talking HBO, Netflix, Hulu. They will never smell their roses.
Yeah.
I told Reggie no 2 to 3 times. The martial arts is not to be exposed like that.
Yes.
You will never see me on social media kicking and punching. You will never see me do that.
No.
The footage he couldn't find is because I fought in the 60s and 70s. We didn't have cell phones.
Yeah.
We had 8 millimeter, 6 millimeter cameras, man, before VCR. But my point is, I had masters that are no longer here say to me, Mychal, look up, Hashi, we don't document our history. We don't document our history. We don't document our system. And then I lost 2 of them, Rico Guy, Papa Sancanti, and then Chuck Merriman.
Yes.
All 3 of those men said, document it. If you don't document it, someone else will do it for you. If you don't write your own story, someone else will write your story. Let me tell you, man, Reggie hit me below the belt with no cup. Okay? Bill, he kicked me below the belt. Your children and your grandchildren and your grandchildren's children need to know what you've done on this earth and in this world. If one child can become a Mychal Sledge or Deborah Sledge or Reginald Bullock or Bill Foster or Malik Foster, then this documentary, it's not about me, it's about us. It's about the time span I grew up in. I give thanks to be called a grandmaster. I give thanks to be called a legend. I give thanks to be called the greatest, the GOAT of all time. But there are so many martial artists that are alive today that will not smell their roses today, Bill. This ain't no memorial service, man.
Not at all.
This is a celebration of my 54 years in life. 54 years in life in the martial arts. And may Almighty God in the universe give me 54 more years so I can kick and punch. I ain't gonna be in no wheelchair. I ain't gonna be in no cane. No. I'm still trained. I'm still training. I'm just not publicizing it, man.
Yeah.
I can't say this enough. How can I pimp, hustle the art that saved my life numerous times in and out of the ring for the sake of $1?
Yeah.
I said this to Reggie, and I mean this with you too, Bill. If anybody else had came to me and said, Mychal, I want to do a documentary on your life, get out of here. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Bill, I'm not doing everybody's podcast. I'm not doing everybody. You have to have the heart of the warrior, the spirit that me and Reggie have on giving this back freely.
Yes, absolutely.
This man had 30 million views for War of My Souls and refused almighty dollar. That's integrity.
Absolutely.
That's integrity.
Real talk. Real talk. Real talk.
So all we want to do is just reach one child, one adult, wake them up from being consciously dead. Share this video.
Yeah.
I'm one of you. You are me. I am you.
Absolutely.
And believe it or not, Bill, you got martial artists that got that upset that I got a documentary and they didn't. I didn't ask for this.
Yeah, you didn't. Yeah.
The universe called this to my life.
Yeah. How many times can you say I didn't want it for me to tell you I didn't want it, whomever you are, for you to say, like, dog, it just would, yo, don't get mad at me because she likes me and she don't like you. That's
right. Good one.
You know what I'm trying to
Good
say?
one, Bill.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And then I'm not supposed to date her because you like her. Come on,
Right,
man.
right.
That's not fucking happening.
Good analogy. But you know what? Though, Bill?
That's not happening. You know
Bill,
what I'm saying?
his story has opened up your story because I didn't know you did this.
Yeah.
There's so many others that are alive that are younger, 5, 10, 20 years younger than Mike, that Mike has told me, oh, he knows this. He got his black belt. He studied under this person, that person.
Yeah.
So Mike behind the scenes has been bigging up all the young people that are coming up that he knows. He picks up the old people and the young people. But he really did not want this. He did not want this.
Yeah, Bill has an instructor, juggernaut, Andre Richardson, big part of Sledge Group. But Bill, I don't know if you know this. Your instructor that passed, Musamir, went by another name. He was a Shotokan man. He was a Shotokan man when I was a child. And he was one of the best Shotokan man in the 60s and 70s. And then he switched up to Tai Chi. Yes. Okay. There are so many, Reggie, please hear me. From Africa, I ain't beating up Japan or China or Korea, but from Africa that are in this country. Okay, Rico guy would cut you too short to shit. Papa San would spin you. Moses Power, Professor Power taught us how to land, not to fall. How to land.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So all I want to do is pay homage to the men that poured into me and the women that poured into me and made me the man that I am today. And I'm grateful for that. And I give thanks. I give thanks to you guys.
Absolutely. Let me just say this last thing. Some of the people, some of the names that he named, Michael's telling me stories about individual that could leap over a New York City fence, the old school fences where he said, no, he could leap over and land. He's telling me stories about Moses Powell saying, if I threw you out of this car, how would you land?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just all of these, the history that he has alone is incredible. And I'm hoping Hulu, Netflix, or whatever, I hope they call Michael, not only do his story, but tell the whole story. He also told me the one story that really it made me sad was that I don't know if the world, see, you might know this, Bill, but I don't think the rest of the world. I grew up seeing Billy Blanks as he's the guy that does the Taibo. He's kind of a silly guy. That's all he was to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing these images of the commercial. Now, no disrespect. If I'm Billy, if you're watching this, make that money, do the commercials, keep doing what you're doing.
But Billy,
he's my friend, Reggie. He's my friend, Reggie.
Right. But here's the thing. That was my only exposure to him until Mike says he was great. I said, what do you mean? He said he had legs that if he kicked you, it was done.
Yeah. Put a hole in the wall.
And I did not know this. So all this time period, I'm looking at just a layman looking at Billy Blanks says, oh, he's got a good smile. He's got a nice little gimmick going. It's cute. No.
Break
Michael's
you
the
up.
one that educated me, said no. He had the most powerful
on that, Reggie.
leg.
Shout out to Ron, Grandmaster Ron Van Cleef, and also Wesley Snipes, that this is the people that we see of color. And I think Stan Shaw, people of color that was martial artist, Fred Williamson, that, kind of kept martial arts on the screen for people of color that we can look up to and say, wow, I can be him too. You understand what I'm saying? Because don't get me wrong, I like Fred Williamson doing the Black Exploration film, him and Jim Brown, because they was getting girls and kicking ass too. But they were the only black man that's throwing the white man out of windows. but that's not the only reason why I like to. But
multiple times.
Listen, talk about Mr. Machizo. Listen, they didn't show it. Listen, in the Black exploitation time, you didn't see a weak black man. You saw a black man that was strong and was powerful. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. That's Mychal Sledge. That's Reggie Bullock. Let me just read some comments real quick, and then we can get out of here. Paula said, awesomeness. Vivian said, I forever thankful for my sensei, Dave Thomas. Shout out to Dave Thomas, because, coming into narcotics after when David left, I became that Bruce Leroy and holding that reins. Vivian Garcia, she said, if it's meant for you, no matter how many times you walk away, it will always come back to your doorstep. Absolutely. Brenda, Sister Brenda, and Brenda's a martial artist too. Shout out to Brenda, her Sensei Mo. She said that was God's will for your life. You understood the assignment. Earl Leslie, he said also too. He said, yeah, Fred Hamilton, absolutely. Shout out to Sensei Hamilton. Rest in peace. Andre Richardson, the documentary is way past due. If I can hear about Toki Hill gold medal, why am I not hearing about Mychal? Absolutely. Earl said, after seeing this film, you will learn, as I did, Martin Luther King Jr. mother was killed in church. Absolutely. Earl, like you said, Black Caesar. Everybody. That's Mychal Sledge. That's Reggie Bullock. I'm Bill Forster. Also, I don't want to forget Jason. She said, awesome. The Black man is at a work of art. Thanks for being a great example. We need to hear you all. Everybody, Real Talk Chronicles. Tomorrow I'll be back. But listen, look at the documentary. The documentary. Don't have me come see you. I know where you live. Respect. Fellas, hold on for a minute. We're going to go in the green room. Everybody, thank you. Share it. Subscribe to it. Peace and love.